I choose you, rubber duck. Go! And they said to me that rubber duck was not a weapon. Pfft, what a joke. And it's another lovely day on the Magic School Bus channel, where the Uncle Bass, that's me, is talking about the games he finds interesting. Today we have a very special game on our hands called WeHappyFew. Now, as always, our goal here is to take this wonderful game and slice it into tiny pieces to find out, is it bad? Is it good? Or is it Horizon Forbidden West?
Why is she here?
I live here too, lugnut.
Jesus Christ, shut the fuck up. WeHappyFew has a tiny bit of everything under its belt, but basically it's a first-person action RPG slash horror slash stealth slash oh my god, not another survival game, no! Now, I have a very important warning before we begin. This game is 100% British. So be careful when listening to dialogues and sipping on some tea, because due to long exposure to the British accent, some people can consider this funny. The game is a very weird one, to be completely honest with you folks. It has 3 million cool and unique ideas, amazing visuals, astonishing story, simple yet very satisfying combat, and then it has some bad moments. Keep in mind, in this video we will not be covering the DLCs for this game, and only be talking about the main campaign and some arcade elements. Mainly because this video is already long enough as it is, but we will get to everything, don't you worry darling, and remember, happiness is a choice. Let's continue this lovely video by talking about the story of the game, shall we now? WeHappyFew initially came out in 2016 in everyone's favorite early access. And the game was not received very good. Now, I can't speak on everyone's behalf here, but in the communities I followed and the channels that I watched at the time, well, the game quickly became a punching bag. Similar to Death Stranding. Half of the people did not even play the game or were playing it just to shit on it some more.
No, he's getting old.
But I actually took the interest in the game mainly due to the game's amazing aesthetic. The game looked amazing. It captures the soul and the vibe of 40s and 50s, giving it a cartoonish twist. The houses and the streets are decorated with brilliantly crafted retro-futuristic environments, something that even the top dogs like Fallout 4 really struggled to achieve. And this indie game from a Kickstarter said like, now this is how you do it, Todd, it just works.
Who's laughing now?
But what really hooked me on the game is the intro. It was created masterfully to immediately pique your interest and really make you feel the tension, the confusion, and the fear. Hey Forrest, you hear me, you ugly bastard? This is how you make an intro. It all begins with our main man, Arthur Hastings, who works as an editor in one of the British newspapers. While casually going through his day, he notices a picture of him and his brother in one of the articles.
Oh, God.
It really strikes a nerve, well, not a nerve, more like something deeper. We hear some trains in the background and the feeling of panic indulges within Arthur. We hear screaming of someone trying to reach out for Arthur, which we can assume is Percy, Arthur's younger brother, and it quickly becomes too much for our man to bear, and in the feeling of pure desperation, he reaches out to a pink bottle of pills, wishing immediately to forget something. Something that he wishes to forget, no, something that he must forget for it not to destroy him from the inside. We're then presented with the choice to remember or to forget. The choice is pretty much obvious here, but it's nice that the developers give us the option to forget. Because if you do forget, the game is over. That's it. It's like one of those Far Cry secret endings, and I love them honestly. Really, more games should do these things. So, of course, we choose to remember, and Arthur, in a strong feeling of guilt, is screaming back for Percy, but the editing machine, sadly, does not answer him back. The hours go flying when a woman in a fabulously looking bowler hat comes in to check on us. She reminds us that we have a birthday party to attend to, and they're even going to have a piñata there. But then she notices a pill that we threw on the ground previously and asks us pressingly if we forgot to take our joy.
Have you forgotten your joy?
Of course not.
Arthur lies his way out of the conversation and tells her that we will be coming to the party soon. The woman takes her leave, but before she does, she quickly swallows a pill and her mouth forms a terrifyingly sinister smile. Then we get to do our wage-cock 9 to 18 job, edit some pages, and off to a party we go. Walking down the hall, we notice a door with a name on it. A name that Arthur finds very familiar. Her name is Prudence Holmes, and the moment we enter her office, our screen flashes, and we see the true colors of the world. Welcome Back Basket has gone completely rotten, and the room looks like a mess. And it has been like that for a very long time. On the wall we can spot a holiday plan, on which Arthur comments,
You're not coming back, are you, Prue? But where did she go?
so we can assume that Prudence went on a holiday, but where to? And why she's not coming back? Then Arthur notices that Prudence was presumably not taking her joy, as she absolutely should, by the way. Some dots start connecting in both Arthur's and the player's mind, but it's far too early to make conclusions for now. Leaving the workplace, we see another office of someone named Hopkins Jones. The shutter on his windows are open, so Arthur peeks through them to witness this horrifying scene.
I took my joy! No! Leave me alone! No! Oh, hi Arthur.
The first time I saw this, it sent shivers down my spine. We can now understand that you need to be on your joy all the time in this world, and the folks around here are very sensitive about this. After that, we enter another workspace, which is a complete mess. The papers are piling on top of each other, forming mountains of undone paperwork. Are people here have such a busy newspaper business, or is someone here slacking off? And now in the distance we see him. A man that is not really fitting in the world of the game, and at the same time being an inseparable part of it. Looking at him for a bit, Arthur decides that now is not the time to listen about health and continues on his journey to the birthday party. Entering the conference room, we are greeted by the same woman who was in our office not too long ago. She gives us a broom and wants us to participate in the piñata event. And if I know my movies, piñata never leads to anything good. But before we continue, I want you to notice how unsettling this all looks. A satanic smile that is a part of everyone's faces, the oddly terrifying masks, the strange laughter of characters, the obsession with hitting the piñata. The scene really makes you feel very uncomfortable, as something bad is about to happen.
You are off your joy. Take one of mine. Oh my lord. He's a downer. Call security. We've got a downer.
The panic, the feeling of dread and shock comes to Arthur as he got himself trapped in a closet. But luckily, there is a way out. While you're desperately trying to find it, voices of what seemed like perfectly normal people turned into a machine-like screeching, trying to force these pink pills up your throat. As you run into the corridor, you meet the Bobbies, or rather, they meet you. After being pushed down the stairs, Arthur has no other choice but to use the maintenance door that leads to the sewers. Only God knows what will happen if the police catches up to him. And in the last desperate act of self-defense, you snatch a metal pipe, but it is no use. After this pathetic display of fighting skills, your screen goes to black, and you hear the Bobbies talk about the gas leak. It seems like you were saved by that lead pipe after all. Now you can clearly see what I was talking about. That intro might as well be one of the best video game intros of all time. It keeps your interest all the way. It knows when to be creepy and when to be downright chilling. After waking up from that nasty kick in the face, Arthur finds himself in quite a predicament. The Bobbies locked him up with the gas, and the only way out is an abandoned maintenance room. As we enter it, we hear a familiar man talking on the radio.
What's going on in the village of Hamlin? Well, chatting and greeting and smiling and laughing, of course.
It's the same guy from before, and his name is Uncle Jack. We will discuss him a bit later, but I will give the taste of the good stuff pretty early. He is, hands down, the best character in the game. After looting some stuff, doing some physical exercises and admiring this beauty, to then do some exercises later when nobody is watching, we find out that the place was used not so long ago. We find notes, some bobby pins, and smiling faces drawn on a mirror. Epic. One of the doors appears to be locked, so it was time for a bit of lockpicking skills. And thank God this game was not made by Bethesda, because I fucking hate lockpicking minigames. Luckily, Arthur is quite good at lockpicking. During his childhood, him and his friend Sally were breaking into all sorts of things, so picking an old locked door didn't seem to be that of a problem. Now would be a good idea to talk about the crafting system itself. The crafting UI, well, the UI in general is amazing. It is so simplistic and so satisfying to glance through. It also keeps that retro-futuristic style which I've mentioned before. The design team did a great job with this one. Now to the crafting itself. You will need to craft a lot of things to beat this game, trust me, but it is not a bad thing. Let me elaborate. You can craft weapons, alchemy potions, key items, gadgets, food, healing items, drugs, and even clothes. Most of the crafting in this game is unnecessary and is more of a quality of life thing. You can easily beat the game without crafting any weapon or other things. All the things you craft can be found by themselves, but if you like fun, you will probably craft a lot of weapons and gadgets, as the more Wakey stuff you have at your disposal, the more fun the game becomes. The first thing you see after you open the door is a bloody corpse of some worker. Well, there are no flies around him, so the guy did not lay here dead all that long. And to the right of him, we find our first memory. Memories in this game are basically your flashbacks. You see, the joy pill does not function as a simple make you happy pill, no. The way it functions is that it makes your memories go away, making you forget all the bad stuff you did. Remember that time you called your home teacher your mom and you were really embarrassed about it? Joy will erase that cringe from your life.
Oh no, cringe!
Or when you were trying to hit on someone and failed miserably and then got laughed at, well, Joy will take care of that, no more thinking about it when you go to sleep. The times you were betrayed, hurt, beaten, Joy erases all of that. It may also hide the most despicable, awful thing you ever did, not just as a person, but as a whole nation. But of course, there are some side effects. Joy also erases the good memories, and Even the most miserable man in the world probably has something that he wishes to remember. So if you stop taking the pills, the memories will slowly be returning to you. All of them. The game does this by doing flashbacks, which are hidden throughout the game. Some are really hard to spot, and some are really hard not to spot. The main thing about these flashbacks is, well, they are not forced down your throat. You can collect them, you can skip them, it is entirely up to you. After exploring for a bit, Arthur comes across a broken keycard switch, but luckily he has found a lock shocker on the corpse of that poor worker. After shocking the lock, this happens. And this is your first fight. The man is babbling some nonsense and wishes to kill you for his own insane reasons, and with nothing but your fists to protect yourself, you have to beat him down. Arthur is not a violent man, but there is no choice. He will murder you if he gets a chance.
That's the first fight I've won since primary school. Actually, I think it's the first fight I've been in since primary school.
After some good punches, we get to turn on the power, and thus we power the hatch that leads to the surface. The man that was laying down on the floor unconscious covered the wall with insane scribbles and smiling faces. But in this setting, the smiling faces did not make me want to smile back. They made me want to leave this cursed place ASAP. After climbing out of the hatch, Arthur states that he needs to get back to the parade district via the bridge.
Bridge. I've got to get to the bridge. In the parade district, which I just got chased out of. Brilliant.
So he comes up with a plan to get to the train station and follow the rail tracks to the bridge in the parade. Now, for it to not get confusing, I need to explain something to you. The game takes place in Wellington Wells, an imaginary part of Great Britain, which consists of many islands connected via bridges. There are 3 types of said islands. There are garden districts, which are where all the nasty people who refuse to take their joy live, villages, somewhat rich cities where the middle class folk live, and the parade, which is basically the rich district. All of the islands are interconnected via bridges, which are really hard to cross for most people, because if you want to get to said village from the garden district, you need to be high on joy to do so. And people who are in withdrawal have a very hard time eyeing the way to do so. If you can see what I mean. Back to Arthur now. And after that, you are a free man. The game is an open world game, which I hate, but I guess this was the shit in 2016, so I can't really blame them for that. So you have your first objective now, and you just need to run for it, and oh, what is this now? No, game developers, listen, bad game developers. And not only compulsion games, but every one of you also, please stop this fucking nonsense. Why do all the game developers feel this fucking cosmic need to put stamina running into every game? What do you want to accomplish with that? I am so tired of playing as asthma patients that can't run for more than 2 seconds. It's just so stupid. The only game that did this stamina running correct was Final Fantasy 15 in my opinion. In that game, if you press the sprint button at the right timing, your stamina will replenish instantly. This is amazing, and I think a lot more games should do this. This is why Sekiro is one of my favorite games ever made, because I can attack and run around as much as I want without stopping every 2 seconds to catch my breath. This game throws a pretty straightforward "this is a tutorial" mission your way, a fetch quest, a classic. The game then teaches you how to fight, which is pretty straightforward in my opinion. You can bonk, you can push, you can block, and that's it. There are some skills to spice up the process and a parry mechanic, but the fighting is not that deep, which is forgivable considering that the fighting never was the focus of the game. After surviving your average day in Britain, Arthur fucking dies. But then he survives and your first stealth section begins. And a quick disclaimer, the stealth in this game is very meh. AI is fucking terrible, so it results in weird best findings, distraction items working horribly inconsistent, and sometimes scuffed animations.
Look, it's not you, it's me.
Plus, the game is made in 2016, so the moment you crouch, you become invisible to human eye. After quickly disposing of the enemies, you get back upstairs and realize that British people are not that friendly actually.
Shit.
Slumming it, are we? Must be nice to have a closet.
The reason being your clothes. And clothes are an important mechanic in this game, because you just need to fit in. People that live in the Garden District are not that welcome to people that are dressed properly. They remind them of their past simple life too much, and it is a life that they can never return to. The life has not been easy on them, so even a slight memento about the good past is enough to set ablaze the anger within them. The proper folk hate people who are dressed in rags, the main reason being the fact that they can't stand people who don't take the pills. Completely justified, by the way, everyone should take their pills all the time. They perceive all the downers, they call people in withdrawal like that, as violent, insane individuals that need to be put down for the greater good.
If you see a drowning downer, what do you throw him? I don't know, a brick? An anvil? Well, no, you can't very well throw an anvil, can you? What about a grenade? No. Who has grenades these days? Answer, another downer! I told you it was good.
So you are in a desperate need of ragged clothes. Arthur sees a rock in front of him and realizes that there is only one way out of this situation. He shreds his favorite suit that his uncle bought him for Christmas.
My uncle gave this to me for Christmas.
Gives back the medals and ventures into the wasteland once again. While exploring the town, or rather what's left of it, you will notice that people here are starving. All the food is rotting, the houses are crumbling down, the ones in which people are living now are barely holding up, with a lot of holes everywhere, sometimes not only in the ceiling, but also in the walls. To survive in this world, you will have to break into some houses, and robbing or sometimes even murdering these people feels extremely bad, but sometimes it even feels like you are doing them a favor. A lot of people are going insane, some more quickly than the other. Taking the joy is no longer an option too, as if you are going into withdrawal for too long, you will puke your guts out and suffer severe hallucinations if you try to take joy. So without the joy, people try to numb their pain in various ways, and some do it with improvised drugs, and others do it with more religious ways. After finishing up with the first bridge, you are presented with a flashback. The memories are hitting Arthur hard, so it quickly becomes too much to bear for him. At that moment, we have no idea what's going on, but Arthur's memories are slowly crawling back to him. The memories and the way to the parade are both leading to a long time forgotten place, the train station. Upon arriving on the said station, we witness some looters trying to break inside the station, and then we meet Ollie Starkie.
Go eat a banger, you leaky scanner!
Remember the guy, he is important. After quickly disposing of the looters, Arthur heads in inside to recover another memory. The feeling of guilt and regret courses through Arthur, though he is not yet fully aware why. But that quick blink of a thought is more than enough for Arthur to remember something. Something that all the Wellington Wells citizens wished to forget. They chose to forget. Germany forced Wellington Wells and perhaps all the citizens of the British Isles to give up all the children below the age of 13 onto a train and send them to Germany, or else they will scorch the place. Percy, as we could have guessed from all the memories so far, suffers from some sort of autism.
You always know You always know what each word means when it comes out. Impedimenta, the baggage, impedimentorum, of the baggage, and impedimentis, to the baggage.
He has trouble talking to people, doesn't understand the norms of society or what's so important about wearing clothes. Basically, he's your average Sigma male. So, Arthur was 13 during that time. He mustn't go to Germany, and he planned on lying to the police officer about it to keep Percy safe, as he quite literally needs someone to be around him, someone that will help him in a time of need. But Arthur chickened out at the last possible moment. That memory is enough to feel the gnawing pain for the rest of your life, but imagine how it was for the parents of those kids. That exact memory will haunt them forever, and that memory is what people chose to forget. Arthur then states that he is to blame because he said to the Bobby about Germans getting his birthday wrong, and if he didn't, he would have been in the said train. The feeling of guilt, sorrow and regret becomes stronger than ever, but there was still something else there, was it? Something even more horrid, buried deep within the mind of a person that chose to forget. It seems like the path is no longer usable, and Arthur's chain of thought was cut short by a group of thugs that approached him out of nowhere. After beating them in the most boyish way possible, we continue our journey through the train station, in which we meet a more close-up version of Ollie, or rather barely survived during the meeting.
You're a waster!
Ollie, it's Arthur!
Well, why didn't you see that before?
The man has some issues, but in this city, who doesn't? The man is constantly talking to his deceased, as we can guess, daughter called Margaret. Ollie briefly tells us, well, not directly to us, but whatever, that Jack turned her in and Ollie tried to save her. And it appears Arthur was the only one who has returned from the damn station. We then hear a bit of why the Germans chose to do this, and they wanted them to stay quiet, and they did, although it is not that clear what exactly did he mean by this. Arthur then states that he needs to find his younger brother, Percy, but for that he needs to get out of Wellington Wells. Which is not that simple, as the only way out is in the parade, and getting there might prove exceptionally hard. But Ollie can help you get there, and no, stop it, not another fetch quest, please.
There's a thing I need from their warehouse.
Fuck you! Thankfully, this is a good one. Ollie wants Arthur to turn off the power in the memorial camp, where the British victory over the Germans is celebrated. This is also the place where all the ex-military people hang around in case the Germans decide to return. The war was a long time ago, so most of the soldiers are old men by now, running around with rifles, practicing marching and the art of bayonet stabbing. While the power is out, Ollie will get something he needs out of it. Plan sounds insane, but it seems like Ollie knows what he is doing and Arthur has no other choice but to comply. Upon seeing Margaret's photo, Arthur tries to remember her last name, but can't quite nail it. It appears the girl has disappeared and, quote-unquote, no one would talk about it. When Arthur arrives on the bridge, he sees that all of the old soldiers are already in Morpheus's embrace. No, not Morbius, you zoomer, shut up.
Do you have the Morbius meal?
Anyways, Ollie did what was necessary, so Arthur quickly sneaked. Oh shit. Yes, he indeed sneaks without anyone noticing him inside of the bunker where he meets Ollie. But first, he glances over at the tanks. The tanks were German, and Arthur does not understand why didn't the Germans took their tanks with them when they left. The tanks were the main threat to the Wellington Wells after all. The army of Wellington Wells did not have the tanks or anti-tank missiles to fight back. The said tanks were the only reason people did not fight back. It's weird seeing them not only in the Victorial camp, but in Wellington Wells in general. All of them presents a plan of operation, quad CSGO,
easy peasy lemon squeezy,
and off you go. Apparently, the old lads don't have a lot of ammunition, but their bayonet game is on point. So after successfully sneaking once again through the hole in a wall, this happens.
Alright, here goes.
We took all the kids to the train station. We sent them off to Germany because of papier-mâché.
The tanks were fake. The main reason why people were surrendering all over the place was nothing but a trick. A trick to surrender, a trick to be afraid, a trick for some people to be remembered, and a trick for some to forget. Arthur was deep within the enemy territory now, and sadly, he wasn't there for papier-mâché. There was still job to be done, and it was too late to back down. Sneaking around this place feels really good. There is a lot of places to hide, and you don't want to be spotted at all. The old farts hit like a truck, and they have throwables that one-shot you if they connect. And you have to not only worry about them, you also have to worry about the projector. After an almost successful sneak, Arthur locks himself inside the General Bing's office and finds not only the key, but the maintenance hatch that leads out of the camp. A ticket out of the office if all hell breaks loose. Finishing his last painful sneak throughout the camp, Arthur finally finds the wretched power switch.
Alright, here goes.
Attention all personnel.
Oh, for fuck's sake, Ollie.
The alarm goes off, and this was not accounted for, and to everyone's surprise, hell does break loose. But fortunately enough, Arthur does manage to reach the hatch before turning into a BMX shish kebab. After a long stroll down the garden district, Arthur finally reaches Ollie, but he's too busy talking to his disappeared daughter, not really paying attention to what Arthur says. And when he doesn't really give a crap. But the truth is a thing that catches up to everybody, and when it does, it stings.
What's that?
It's tank armor. The tanks, they're made of papier-mâché. We could have fought them if they didn't really have tanks.
No.
The realization of what actually happened during the long-forgotten war hits them hard. Perhaps even too hard, as Arthur reaches deep within himself to find the thing he was trying to forget for all these years. The thing so disturbing, so sickening, it scars you for the rest of your life.
I wouldn't have had to lie my way off that train!
Oh my god. I lied my way off that train.
Arthur lied. He was not too old to go. He sent his brother to a death sentence with no one to support him. Doing that to a normal person is already disgusting enough, but Percy is not normal. He needs to have someone around. Arthur was the only person in the world he could trust, and he stabbed him in the back the moment it mattered the most. But that, surprisingly, does not break the man. Oh no, now he's even more determined than ever. The truth hurts, sure, but there is still a slight chance to get it all back, to make things right. But to get to the parade, Arthur first needs to get to the village, through the Maidenholm Bridge. And luckily, Ollie has just a thing to help him. After saying goodbyes to Ollie, Arthur heads over to the bridge. Upon arriving on this bridge, it turns out to be unavailable. It is pretty clear that the bridge is working fine, but people from the city does not take kindly to those from the garden district.
We don't take kindly to your types in here.
So the bridge breaks every time someone tries to cross it because
everybody feels better if that door stays broken. You, us, everybody.
But Arthur has a trick up his sleeve. After going into the bridge to the maintenance hatch, Arthur realizes that his act of an undercover bridge inspector can only take him this far. You need the keycard to get in, and sadly, we don't have one. The only possible way out is to go through normally. This following section is amazing and one of the best in the entire game. After going in through the vent, you are greeted by this lovely lady.
Please take a number and sit down.
There's nobody else here.
Please take a number and sit down.
Don't mind me. Just having a bit of a sit down.
Number 2. Now serving number 2.
I love when games do this. It reminds me of this funny bank quest in Witcher 3. So it turns out this is not only a bridge, but a rehabilitation center, which, you know, makes sense, considering that this bridge connects the I1 filled with downers and the I1 filled with normal people. You take a shower, make a snarky comment,
I hope she's not watching and judging,
get new fresh pair of clothes and even some perfume. But now the important part, the joy. Of course, every decent citizen should always take their joy, but our man Arthur is not a very decent citizen now, is he now? But there is no time to dwindle. It's time to make the life fun again. After taking a ticket to a happier life into his hands, Arthur quickly swallows it. His pupils become tiny and everything becomes bright and fabulous. Now let's talk about the joy mechanics. You only need to utilize this drug as an absolute last resort. The game states that really clearly. Every time you take a pill, your meter bumps up a bit, and if it fills up, this happens. This is called a memory loss, and it is chilling when you first experience it. You can't do, well, basically anything when it happens, and the enemies can spot you really far away. Not to mention you hit back like a white knight on the post with a girl on Reddit.
You are bullying and swearing at an innocent girl!
And even after taking one pill, after it runs out, you will suffer a withdrawal. Everything will go green and people will become suspicious, attacking you on the spot. After taking some happy pills, we head into the theater where an already well-familiar face tells us how to behave properly. This is a genius design choice. Uncle Jack talks to us like he would to a 5-year-old, explaining the most obvious things possible, because when you are high on joy, you're not really thinking that much. It makes perfect sense for him to talk to you like that, and at the same time, this is a tutorial on how to behave in the city. There are some rules in the city, like the one where you can't sprint, crouch or jump, because it makes people upset, and to be honest, why shouldn't it? Where do you need to be that fast? Why the rush? When you are happy, you don't need to rush things. If you do something bad, policemen will come chase you down. It is brilliant how good this game hides a tutorial in the game's narrative. I love it. And now, this is the time for a pop quiz.
A pop quiz is a short examination designed to test your knowledge without any prior warning or announcement. Such exams allow the teacher to assess how thoroughly the students have retained the material at hand. Voila.
Yes, we get it. Get back to this collision. And the pop quiz is formed like a game show. Of course, the answer to all the questions is pretty much obvious, but that is not the point. The point of this is to understand how those who are in power treat society. They perceive them as literal children, and they're not far from wrong here. Joy sometimes makes you forget even the most basic things like who you are or where you're going to. Of course it will make your brain cells too, it's pretty much obvious. While you're breezing through the literal video game interpretation of the Idiocracy movie, you will notice how your colleague is not doing so well. This is mainly because he sees eyes everywhere due to the extended period of joy withdrawal.
Player 2, I'm afraid the eyes was not the right answer.
What are you supposed to be, a disappointment?
The thing I also wanted to point out is the vibe of this whole procedure. Sure, it all is brightly covered and friendly looking, but there is something deeply unsettling about this whole thing. It makes you feel extremely uncomfortable, scared even. This whole inhumane atmosphere makes you want to be done with it ASAP and preferably move as far away from it as possible. After you win this whole thing, don't expect a prize, because the whole thing is rigged. After it is done, it simply starts all over again to stop any downers that are done with rehabilitation to move any further.
The hell? I passed the test. Oh, for heaven's sake, I'm not going to do this again. How do I get out of here?
Even if you trick the Bobby into letting you in, even if you don't suffer from severe hallucinations, you cannot enter the village as the system would not allow you to. After realizing that he had enough of this shit, Arthur smashes down the vent and sneaks through. After that, we meet our first Bobby in proper clothes in person. The Bobbies are chilling, they are always higher than you and that makes them even more menacing. Their way of speaking is very unsettling as well, just look at how they talk.
Lovely day for it. Unfortunately, the bridge is not open at this time. It was working just a minute ago, but the door is broken again.
But the mask is what seals the deal. The happy masks of normal people make them force a smile, but Bobby's masks take it to the next level. Their smiles have teeth and shape their face in such a way that it is impossible for a human to smile naturally. It is understandable why they decided to make the Bobby an unofficial mascot of the game. Their design is amazing at everything they want to achieve. The Bobbies look menacing and creepy at the same time, and after being greeted by happy people of this village,
Congratulations!
Congratulations.
Congratulations!
you finally enter Maidenholm. A civilized society at last.
So uncivilized.
The cities are way different from what we saw in the Garden District. People here greet each other with their signature greeting, lovely day for it.
Lovely day for it.
They also seem very friendly and polite, cracking jokes and enjoying themselves. But the moment they spot you for who you are, the moment your mask slips, it will not take them a second of hesitation to arm themselves and murder someone in cold blood.
Stop bringing me down! They've got blood all over them!
Why wouldn't you kill a downer after all? They are barely human anyway. After that, you can pop a joy and go with your day. No one will ever notice something is wrong. Instead of crumbling buildings, dust shells and other war remnants, we have colorful modern cities with parks, shops, music and proper clothes. We also have a new enemy type to consider now, well, excluding Bobbies of course, we have the grannies. They are very peaceful, but the moment they see something is wrong, they'll yell on top of their lungs until someone comes to resolve the issue. Or until someone does, you know, this. And the homes have somewhat more food, although most of it is rotten for some reason. But the thirst becomes a more pressing issue. The village's water supply is enhanced with the liquid form of joy, which is amazing because you can never have too much joy now, can you? But as it turns out, Arthur, being a degenerate that he is not too keen on taking his joy. So instead you have to craft water filters to filter the tap water that you find, as the city no longer has clean water pipes that you used to find in the Garden District. Luckily we are British though, and we can go sipping on some tea. Spiffing Brit would be so proud right about now.
Wait, what's your favourite cup of tea?
Yorkshire tea.
Oh, well, that's a good choice. Fine, you can eat this evening, but otherwise no other food.
After arriving in the city, Arthur realizes a slight problem. To get to the parade, he needs a letter of transit, which he left on top of his desk in the parade. So now our job is to find ourselves a new one. Arthur then quickly remembers that the old printing office was in Maidenholm, and with nothing left to do but to break in, he decides to do exactly that. But in the alley leading to the printing office, Arthur stumbles upon someone he never thought he would meet here. It was an old childhood friend of his, Sally Boyle.
Sally? You look fantastic.
She quickly points out that Arthur is off his joy and he has no other choice but to explain what happened.
Percy.
Oh, God.
I saw a picture of him.
Sally offers him her help, but Arthur is not too keen on her helping him out. It appears the memories of their childhood were not that delightful for Arthur.
My God. You still hate me, don't you?
Yeah, well, I've only been wondering for the past 14 years.
We were 16!
How could you?
Sally did something with someone 14 years ago, and the wound is still fresh for Arthur. After that, he realizes that he went a bit overboard, but by the time he turns around, she's already gone. We then overstay our welcome and being greeted by some hoodlums who were searching for Sally, but instead stumbled upon us. After teaching them a lesson about patriotism, we need to find Sally. Arthur's pride took over him at a very wrong time. If only he wasn't a prickly prig that he is, we would have been on our way to the parade, but he just had to blow it all up, didn't he? If only the guy took his joy as he needed to, nothing of that would have happened. After leaving the alley, we are greeted by Constable, who tells us that the bridge we need to cross is, to everyone's surprise, broken. Oh, I meant under renovations. And some guy named Dr. Faraday is the only one in the world who can fix all things. Amazing. But her location is a secret, so we first need to go to the police headquarters and get the answer from them. Willingly or not so much. Of course, Bobbies tell us off, but one of them mentions a constable named Bobby Hickenbotham who's hanging out in some place called the Reform Club. The important thing we learn here is that Dr. Faraday has been deprived of all of his liberties despite him being the inventor of 99% of all technological advances in Wellington belts. Not being that convinced with the answer he was given, Arthur decides to continue the investigation in a more illegal manner. But to do that, he first needs to get into an elevator when a painfully familiar voice appears behind him.
Percival Hastings, is it not?
The words echo within Arthur's head, each stinging like a hot steel against his brain.
Odd. There are some things you think you'll never forget. But then, I suppose you do.
I'm Arthur. Arthur Hastings.
Memories play tricks on you, do they not?
He did not confuse names, he knew exactly what he was talking about. Each word was said with sheer confidence, like he was practicing his little speech for some time. But why did he call him Percival? And how does he know Arthur in the first place? This interaction triggers another memory in Arthur's exhausted brain.
You must get back on board! How old are you, Mr. Hastings?
I'm 13. They typed my birthday wrong on the card.
So, why are you here?
I'm just here to take my brother to the train.
The puzzle is folding slowly but steadily, and the closer we get to the truth, the more it hurts. But we will have the time to remember when we will be done with our sneaking mission. There was still a job to be done. Acquiring the constable's keycard, Arthur manages to sneak into the archives, where he finds a neat little report about himself. With the help of this lovely individual, I've come to know that if you play this the pacifist sort of way, like I do obviously, the report will say that you are not that dangerous, but if you do it otherwise, the report will say to stay away from you. I actually adore cute details like this in games, and this is just one of the things I wanted to point out. Arthur actually finds Dr. Faraday's address, and sorry dumb fuck, but Princess is in another castle. Now, this Dr. Faraday arc is one I enjoy the least. She's a very necessary character, don't get me wrong, you will wait to understand why, but there is just so much running around doing tasks that seem pointless. There are some good moments, but even during the recording, this is the place where I went like, fuck it, and went to play something else.
Wait, this game is fucking trash.
But the arc starts with a very strong moment, so let's get to it. Arthur remembers the guy who was supposed to check on Dr. Faraday, well, the one that two constables told him about. It might be a ticket to the next island for him, so he decides to check out the Reform Club, and it's a BDSM club. Lovely. Obviously, they couldn't show penises flying around, so instead everyone is dressed in latex and have intense pleasure zapping each other with pleasure sticks. Huh.
Fucking slaves, get your ass back here! Fuck you!
There is a ton of cool details here, this one though not so much. We finally get some light-hearted, funny stuff instead of depression time. Usually things like that don't work that well in some games. Well, imagine Pathologic with something like this, that will never work. It will ruin your immersion, but in the context of WeHappyFew, it works perfectly. The game is already very over the top, and why not go even more overboard in some places. So anyway, you find Higginbotham, BDSM note, his keycard, a vibrating rock on a stick, and I'm not lying by the way, this is exactly what this is. And you are good to go. You pass through the bridge with no problems this time, but then you notice something weird. Lad's home, the place where Dr. Faraday is in right now, is infected with plague. The source of the plague is unknown, but symptoms are pretty clear. You lose your mind, become hyper-aggressive, and start talking in Old English. I'm not kidding, this is a thing. The plague victims are your new enemy type. They run really fast but can't use any weapons at all, and if they bite you, you get infected with plague. And I suggest you never do that, but the most annoying thing is they can't be strangled from behind like all the other enemies, which is bad. After dealing with the plague victims, you finally arrive at Dr. F's house, where you find her fucking slaves, I mean homeboys, that are in a bit of a pickle right now. And now we figure out that Dr. Faraday is actually a woman, which actually tells us a lot about society. Arthur is a very wealthy and, all things considered, not that dumb individual, and most importantly, he works in a newspaper business. And Dr. Faraday is kind of a big deal. She's one of the main inventors of this whole country, so knowing her sex should be public knowledge, but it actually isn't. Or most likely it is, but no one seems to really care. Who cares who made the things you use on a daily basis? What matters is... Did you take a joy yet? You should.
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next product.
So after helping homeboys a bunch, you finally get to Dr. F, and the part which I told you about begins. Basically, she told the executive committee, which is your government around here, that she is no longer going to produce the things for them, and for that they locked her within her own house. She wants you to help her get out of the cage she's locked in, and instead she will fix the bridge you need to cross to get to Sally. Remember her? The girl that could literally save the day, and we wouldn't have to do all that? Fuck you, Arthur, I fucking hate you. So, generic NPC number 47 gives us a fetch quest which requires a vacuum cleaner 3000 that sucks up multiline that is leaking from somewhere. We can later keep it to fuel our power cells that we use in flashlights, oh shit, not these ones, and we use it to craft some OP weapons, so vacuum is good, but the quest is just ass. So let's speed it up a bit. Now you're probably wondering, what the fuck is multiline? If you played Dishonored, this is basically your whale oil. But to be more precise, there are some crystals underground that could be made into liquid substance that functions as a battery. Cool. But the multiline itself is quite lethal, the fumes are very deadly, so drinking it is never a good idea, but some people try it, for some reason. Finally you go back to Faraday and are you fucking kidding me? So now I have to extract some parts from cars we find. The device is once again pretty handy. You can use it to extract some crafting materials from cars, but the quest is so damn annoying. You have to go to 3 separate cars that are far away from each other, and after you do that, the same fucking flashback plays 3 times.
So that's where I parked it. Oh dear. It's off.
Get your paws off my thing!
Are they going to hurt us?
No one's going to hurt you, Percy. I promise.
But
We're brothers. I'll look out for... We'll look out for each other.
Arthur, I will fucking kill you the moment you exit Wellington Wells, you fucking bastard! So, after doing all that, you come back to this fucking beach and oh fuck you, I am not waiting another day, god fucking... Wait, what? So, I didn't tell you this, but she was planning on building some sort of wormhole device and it seems like it worked. You come running back to her and the beach took off. All that was in vain, she just left! The lab is a mess too, but Arthur does manage to find something inside. Well played, game. I give up, you win. Turns out, these quests were pain in the ass on purpose. Game designers were just making fun of you. They are laughing at you right now. I love when games do these things. I can't even be mad about it. That's very good writing. I tip my fedora to your compulsion games. So now we can finally, fucking finally, see Sally again. The first thing you notice after crossing the bridge to Sally are these things. They are called doctors and they are simply terrifying. They can smell you when they are off your joy, so you better stay away from them or take your joy like any decent citizen would. If they come too close to you, they will give you a quick injection of liquid joy via the syringe, and if you resist... Everything about the doctors is downright chilling. They are also super tall, but the way they walk is abnormal and very unsettling. The masks are even more creepy than the Bobby's ones. Just look at how simply terrifying they are. Fighting with them is not your best option, as they wield a fucking chainsaw, can throw small bombs at you, and even worse, revive already dead NPC. If they catch you by surprise, be ready to change your diapers, because the laughter these guys make when they rev their chainsaw makes me almost as scared as calling Boss Baby at 3 AM. After arriving at Sally's place, Arthur kinda, almost, not really, apologizes to her and asks for help. It feels like Sally has some feelings for Arthur as she tries to flirt with him a bit, but once again...
Could you do something for me? I need a bottle of cod liver oil.
Hey mister, I need this thing! Well kid, times are tough, so you gotta get me this thing, so I would give you that thing.
One eternity later.
Okay sir, here you go. Here's this thing you asked me to give. Where is my that thing? Well, good job, kid. I had my 3 Brazilian best soldiers die for that thing, and you get it like that? Nice. Here you go. Here's your thing. Now, scrap off. I have some busy things I need to do. She asks us to get a bottle of cod liver oil for reasons she keeps very vague, and the only place Arthur can get this is in Dr. Verlog's lab. And then this happens.
So...
pathetic.
I am the storm that is approaching.
Okay, sorry, I just couldn't help it. So, after being as awkward as possible, Arthur finally leaves and it's time for another fetch quest. Guess who is excited? Me. First things first, who the fuck is Dr. Verloc? Dr. Verloc is one of the main chemists of the city and the inventor of the joy pill, also being the head of the doctors. You should know him, he's a big deal. So, as always, nothing ever fucking works with these quests. Arthur tries to impersonate a reporter, there is a slight hiccup in the lab, and the bobbies won't let him in. But they require a press pass, so you better get yourself one. But luckily, Arthur has a friend named Mrs. Oliphant at the newspaper agency, so he goes to find out if she has a spare press pass. So, guys, are you still there? I bet you got a little tired now, How about a quick round of Simon Says to take a break, right? Alright. Gather up, folks. It's time for a daily recreational activity. Well, shall we? Now, if you're not familiar with the rules, our dear Uncle Bess, that's me, is going to quickly tell you the rules. Okay, listen. Oops, I didn't say Simon Says. I got you already. Now, I'm going to tell you to do something, and if I don't say Simon Says, you're out. Now, Simon Says, let's begin. Simon Says, go do 3 billion fetch quests. Okay. Simon Says, rob some houses for crafting items. Okay, good job everyone, good job. Now, Simon Says, run out of stamina every 5 seconds. Nice, good job so far, people. Now, be a complete stupid degenerate. Oops, I didn't say Simon Says. Arthur, you are out.
What a shame. He was a good man.
And we are back with Uncle Bess, that's me, to continue our lovely story. Mrs. Oliphant appears to do some private investigation, so she sends us to one of her workers that stopped showing at her workplace to find out what's up. When we arrive to the place, she is nowhere to be found, and after looting it a bunch, we hear some voices from outside one of the windows.
You have no right to touch me! You know perfectly well I've taken my joy! You can't take me away! I'm not sick! Or unhappy! Help! Police! Help! Someone stop them!
Where are they taking her?
Of course, the doctors are the power around these parts, and that girl knew just a tiny bit too much. She was doing some sort of investigation about Verloc and his muscle, the doctors. After coming downstairs, we see that the doctors are already inside the house and are looking through her stuff. If anyone had any doubt before, now it is perfectly clear that the doctors are trying to hide something. Something that common folk should not have access to. After taunting the doctors a bit, Arthur locks himself in one of the rooms, collects all the evidence he can, and barely escapes through the vent.
Dear Mr. and Mrs., thank you for your recent letter. The symptoms you described were anxiety, guilt, and hunger. All are signs of joy withdrawal. I assure you that your troubles are all in your head, even though they may feel very real to you. A modest increase in your joy dosage should do the trick, but special cases may receive personalized care at Haworth Labs. Any doctor can arrange your passage to our facility. Yours most sincerely, Dr. A. Verloc.
All the evidence say that Verloc is looking for some permanent solution. But a permanent solution to what? We cannot know just yet, as the only source of available information that we had was just carried away by the gals in the green hats.
No, I wanna go!
But we got a lead at least. The girl was looking into the tunnels beneath the town and even marked the hatch that she can use to get in. After heading there and impersonating a construction worker, an unfortunate accident happens, but nobody dies. I think. Heading into a hatch that just exploded not too long ago was not the best idea, but the truth was buried deep within there, so Arthur had no other choice but to head in. After heading inside, we find the place in a complete mess. The place is on fire, there are leaks of gas everywhere, and power seems to be barely functioning. On the corpse in front of us, we find a letter about a bad batch of joy that only makes the workers half as happy.
Dear Dr. Verloc, my men seem to have received a weak batch of joy. That is, it makes them half as happy. Unfortunately, it makes them just as foggy. As a result, they have been doubling up on joy, and this is making them rather too foggy to work. Would you please send a regular strength ration of joy as soon as possible? Is blackberry a possibility?
So instead, they double down on the dosage, and that makes them very foggy? They also mention some type of blackberry joy, which is weird because there are only 3 flavors of joy: chocolate, vanilla or strawberry. There is no blackberry joy in the booth, and we never find it in the houses, so what exactly is it? Later in the tunnels we find another note that says that there has been a slight accident in the facility. One of the workers accidentally used almond gas as flavoring and presumably poisoned everyone. After that, she has gone on holiday. Throughout the game you hear that term a lot. Uncle Jack says it in his show, a lot of shops are closed due to the shopkeepers being on a holiday, Britons from the beginning of the game also went on a holiday. The question is, if you are so happy at Wellington Wells, why go somewhere else? And if you do go on a holiday, do you ever return? Something doesn't seem right. Even on Joy you are not stupid enough to poison the muffins with gas. Could it be the bad batch of Joy that is messing people up? After a bit more of explosions here and there,
oh shit!
we witness some Outlast mechanics, and to get out we need to flick 3 power switches, and that doesn't seem that hard at first, but then...
Hi, my name is Markiplier, and I've never done drugs.
Avoiding the crazy teapot, Arthur successfully flicks all the switches, but while he does, he stumbles upon some interesting things. First of all, another joy request to Verloc himself.
Dear Anton, my workers seem to have received a weak batch of joy. That is, it makes them half as happy. Unfortunately, it makes them just as foggy. As a result, they've been doubling up on joy, and it's making them rather too foggy to work. They no longer remember to put on their gas masks. Half of our glee club has gone on holiday from taking off their masks to sing. Situation urgent. Please advise. Yours, Penelope.
The joy is so bad now, people are forgetting to put on the gas masks, and she implies half of them went on holiday. Well, judging by the context, it is 100% clear that she's implying they are dead. So, a holiday is a sort of euphemism for dead people, or people that disappeared. Along with the note we find a disturbing map of the underground tunnels. The map is filled with red and yellow light, meaning almost all of the underground municipal facilities are not functioning or destroyed completely. All of the underground network is completely shut off and probably filled with corpses. How long was it like this? Was it days? Weeks? After escaping with all the necessary information, we find ourselves locked with the man in the teapot. Epic. We find some shock grenades in the supervisor's office, and with that, Arthur survives his first boss encounter. That's right, go back to Cuphead, you fucking twat! But then he notices a man that was trapped by this Cuphead fanatic, who just so happens to be a supervisor of this station. He then tells us that they are not doing that well actually, and accidentally slips us a letter from Anton Verloc himself. The letter reads as follows. I received your note about the latest batches of joy. You did the right thing writing to me directly. Entre Noir, I am working on a permanent solution that will render our current joy program obsolete. But you didn't hear it from me. Ironically enough, both our interest and Arthur's main motivation leave us no choice but to enter the lab of Verloc's. The only thing left is get back to Mrs. Oliphant. You tell her everything, and surprisingly enough, she believes that. She then hints that she might not be here when you will come back, because...
But you never know when I might stop printing lies. And they won't like that.
After that, Arthur has a sinking feeling somewhere deep within. He knows what will happen, but then again, so does she. With the press pass in hand, we begin our way into the lab. Upon arriving, we realize that the lab is also not in the greatest shape. The whole factory is under lockdown, and there are police officers to keep the curious people out. Inside of the lab, we see that something did happen. The whole factory is filled with motilene leaks, both the liquid and the gas. Workers that barely know what they're doing, and sparks flying out of every device there is. After searching through the lab, we find a curious note from Verloc to General Bing, and with that we finally understand a crucial piece of information. After Verloc went through with a bad batch of joy, it was collected and dumped into the ocean, which was a very bad idea to begin with. The aftermath of this was the highly toxic gas that poisoned the water supply and resulted in growing of the weird mushrooms called hyptoplasm by the locals. There was not so much to eat in the Garden District, so the poor people who ate those mushrooms, well, they became infected with the plague. The spores of these mushrooms are the source of the plague. But Verloc has some sort of permanent solution to all of this, which really makes you curious. What can solve this mess? What can he be possibly working on that can cure not only the plague, but the town that is eating itself alive? Luckily, there is an answer to that. After taking the elevator upstairs, we can find some notes regarding this so-called permanent solution. First, we find a letter to General Bing about the source of these joy pills. Turns out they are running out of resources to produce the joy at an alarming rate, so Verloc is trying to think ahead. This is the reason why the solution is permanent. From now on, one pill will be enough for all eternity. The reason behind the bad batches is also clear. There is simply not enough resources to produce it further. So the main idea behind this permanent solution is pretty simple. Verloc wishes to create a new flavor of joy called the coconut joy. The pill will function as a pure lobotomy because Verloc thinks that the true source of happiness lies in the physical manipulation of the brain. This solution will turn everyone into permanently happy zombies, saying that this is a lovely day for it forever. Only one question remains. Just how far in development is it? Going forward, we meet the head of the security. Arthur tells him about the lab spreading poisonous gas all around, and Verloc doesn't really seem to care much about it. But then he realizes that no one from his actual staff is smart enough to talk like this, and the alarm goes off.
He's an imposter. Implement security protocol 187.
Oh, yes, sir. That's my favourite protocol. I am full of the fury of the Lord, and I am right weary with holding back.
And after barely surviving the second boss fight of the game, we finally meet the man in person. Verloc barely even notices our presence, nor does he care about the state of his workers and the lab. After Arthur tells him about the literal lobotomy he is trying to perform here, Verloc is not even attempting to deny it, saying that he was asked to synthesize something more powerful than the joy for a long time. After that, Arthur states the obvious, saying that this coconut joy will turn people into robots made out of meat, but Verloc does not see a problem in that.
So the people stay happy no matter what. You can't do that. They told the Wright brothers they couldn't fly, but they did.
What's interesting about this exchange is that Verloc does not seem to have any sense of morality left inside him. Obviously, Arthur tries to question it by saying that he can't do that, but Verloc only sees the question as doubting the sheer possibility of accomplishing that, and he sees absolutely nothing wrong with making people happy forever. Arthur then asks the man for a bottle of cod liver oil, but Verloc does not really want to comply. So that makes Arthur threaten him with his latest coconut joy formula, which makes Verloc show actual fear within him. Desperate to get out of this safe and sound, he does this.
Ha! Now you can't move until I take my hand off this button.
Oh, shit.
But Arthur doesn't actually care about him escaping, because he's not here to stop his evil plan. He needs the damn bottle for Sally. After finding out the most obvious supervillain hideout in the world, we head downstairs. In this secret lair, we find the test subjects of this Coconut Joy. It's easy to guess that Coconut Joy is still far in development, as almost all of the test subjects have different side effects, but one thing remains the same: all of them are clinically insane and even violent. Ah shit, that's not good. And there it is. After all this crap, we finally get the damn bottle. Now it's time to GTFO. Our escape route leads us to the flushing room, where workers have flushed the chemicals into the river, and sadly, it is our only way out, polluting the river even more after finally manages to get out of this forsaken place. It all comes down to Sally one last time. Arthur is tired, beaten up, and probably a bit not clear-headed right now. There is only so much a man can take. Impatiently as ever, he barges into the Sally's room, eager to get his hands on letter of transit. Sally is trying to tell him something, but can't really put it straightforward, and Arthur has had enough, so he snaps.
Why won't you just give me the fucking letter of transit? Oh, it's always what you want, always what you need, every little Sally whim. Bloody cod liver oil.
Do you really think I'm that awful?
What, just because you fucked my dad while you were living in our house, in my mum's bed?
So now we know why he's mad at her. By every little second, the game becomes more fucked up and depressing. Arthur then realizes that he's a bit of an ass, and now a bit earlier than before, and he even kinda apologizes again. He even suggests to escape the city together, and Sally gladly takes the offer, but she needs a bit of time till dawn to do so because things are complicated. Our boy throws a bit of a tantrum, and Sally realizes that he's already one leg outside of her apartment, and she goes all in trying to confess to him about something.
Look, there's something I haven't been entirely straight with you about.
But our big man had had enough. He takes the letter and leaves.
It's just self-preservation, Sally. No hard feelings.
Self-preservation, my ass, goddammit, Arthur. And now we finally arrive at the bridge to the parade, and after giving the Bobby the letter, he hints that this bridge is going to get closed really soon, and usually they purposely log the bridges from the garden district to the villages to prevent wastrels skulking around, but why log the bridge to the parade? What's going on here? And after arriving in the most rich part of Wellington Wells, we can see that things are not going that smooth here. Almost every part of the city is under lockdown due to plague, and sadly, the part we need is under lockdown as well. It just never can be simple, can it? So, to unlock the quarantine, doctors need a device called a Fremistat, and the only place to get it is the R&D department. And considering that everyone and probably everything in the city is stoned beyond their minds, Arthur decides that if you want something done, you need to do it yourself.
Clearly, you don't know an Fremistat.
In the R&D department, we can see basically what you would expect. A bunch of useless inventions and workers high beyond belief. Unfortunately, the head of the department does not take visitors, so now we have to blow the hole through the surface of Mars. Oh wait, that's the wrong game. So we blow ourselves a hole in his office, which leaves the guy more of a fascination than a shock. He gladly helps us, and we are off to the doctor's headquarters. But not before grabbing the most broken OP weapon in the game. Seriously, this thing is a fucking beast. Now, this mission is downright horrifying. You infiltrate the place that is swarming with these creepy fuckers. Getting a drop on them is really hard. Not only do you require a skill to take them down, but you have to be really quick about strangling them because you smell like a bitch and they know it.
Smell like bitchy here!
After gaining access to the top floor, we take the elevator there and then this happens.
Ah, there you are. We've been waiting for you.
Now we see it, the coconut joy. Although not working really as intended, the results are terrifying. And the sad thing is, it seems like we've become one of these guys' pets, just like the ones in Verloc's cages at his evil lair. The doctors send us off to our cell, but unfortunately for them, in this city, nothing ever works. Should have done the fetch quest, you fuckface. Finally, Arthur arrives at the quarantine panel and after inserting the Fremestat, all hell breaks loose and now there is nowhere to run. But unfortunately for them, I have entered the Sandman.
Well, it's for nothing.
After barely escaping the Health Institute, we see the town in literal chaos. Plague victims are everywhere, attacking everyone. Constant noises of Bobby's whistles and Doctor's bone saws can be heard from every corner of the map, but it is no longer our problem. One last dash remains. We arrive at the broadcast tower, the place underneath of which is a huge tunnel leading to the tracks away from Wellington Wells. So it seems there lies our destination. Following a huge chain of partially broken and leaking motoring pipes, we find the corpse of Prudence, the girl that went on a holiday at the beginning of the game. It appears she was trying to leave this wretched place too, and was very close, but the motoring gas is what did her in. Poor woman. Leaving behind this poor soul, we arrive at the heart of Wellington Wells. The Motiling Crystop Mines. The place is gigantic and appears crumbling at the same time. So Arthur better find the escape route fast, as God only knows how long this place is going to last. Following some mining tunnels, we find one of the workers that explains the current situation. The people here are losing their minds and not a lot of people are working. Not to mention, they dug Motiling too hastily and too greedily, so the Balrog has awake. I mean, they collapsed half of the mine because of that.
Gives me conniptions.
He also tells us never even think about starting that machine again, because it can bury the entire city with it, so turning it on is basically a suicide and... Arthur, I fucking hate you. After barely escaping yet again, we finally see it. The bridge leading out. The sun is setting down on the island. The city had it bad as it is. God knows what happens to it after all the Arthur's doing. But it's finally all behind us. And it is only that one last button that is left to press to get out. After doing that, one of the Bobbies greets us. We walk along the bridge together, but the Bobby talks different. Unnaturally different. And after him taking down the mask, it all becomes clear. The memories are unleashed now. The constable knew what we did, but still chose to help us. And it seems like it was not the first time he did it.
You must get back on the train.
The windows of the train.
Where'd you go? Arthur! You
You must get back on board!
No, I'm just here to take my brothers to the train.
Please! No! Get up!
Mr. Percival Hastings.
That's me, Percy. People call me Percy.
Someone has written on this card that you are a bit dim, and you can't be roaming about on your own. You don't seem dim.
Right, well, Mum thinks I can't... Mum thinks I can't... Mum thinks I can't take care of myself. But I can.
I've had it with you!
To tell the truth, I really did want to go to Germany with my brother, Arthur. See, we'd sort of take care of each other. So I tried to sneak on, but then Arthur said, no, we have to follow the rules.
Is that so?
I'll just run along home. Mum's probably worried sick. Can I go?
This is a day we may all come to regret, Mr. Hastings. But I am not going to put one more child on that train than my duty obligates me to do. Run along then.
The pain and the memories of what seemed to be buried long ago become unbearable. Now it's too late. This pain, this feeling of guilt will never go away now, and will sting only harder from now on. All of this can never be forgotten. Leaving the mask and the city behind, Arthur takes the long walk towards freedom. The freedom from being happy all the time, and the freedom of being truly human. Well, that was rather powerful. What was this game, like 10, 12 hours? Whew, pretty good game I must say. Well, to be honest, it lost me towards the middle a bit, but in the end What? There's an Act 2? What the- How long is this game? And we're back, my lovely ladies, gentlemen, and other non-binary persons, as we never discriminate here on the Uncle Best channel. Let's continue our lovely adventure now, shall we? So now we get to play as Sally Boyle instead of this prickly prick. And I think this chapter is the most refined gameplay-wise. You will shortly see why. You see, Sally is a girl, and you will notice that quite a lot.
There. As easy as unhooking a bra.
Get it? Because she's a girl? She's a brilliant chemist, so all of you 3 people that like alchemy in Skyrim will like her a lot.
Poison of paralysis will last 4,300 seconds.
You can brew a lot of cool gadgets as Sally. My favorite is a sleep thingy. Also some techie stuff. For example, you can sting someone with a syringe on the street, drain all of their joy and call them a downer to create a distraction. But it all comes with a drawback. Sally can't sue for shit. So much for a woman, am I right, fellas?
No, stop! That was a very offensive attempt at humor. Not a woman should be capable of doing you imaginary trad woman stuff. Grow up, kid!
So, all these disguises that you had with Arthur can only be acquired via money. Which is fine, because Sally is a Sigma female, you earn money super fast because your camp's worth a lot. So you need to brew text not only for yourself, but for the shops as well, which is cool. Also, Sally doesn't hit very hard because she's very tiny, and she can't use weapons like Sandman because she has tiny hands. And also, you can't strangle people like you did as Arthur, and you need to use the knockout syringes, which are kinda hard to get in the early game, so she is much harder to play. You are very squishy, do no damage with attacks, run slower, can carry less, but your chemistry is good to compensate.
Whoa! Yankee with no brim!
Anyway, let's give some background here, because the game can get very confusing about parts at times. Sally is a childhood friend of Arthur Hastings, and we can assume they had some feelings towards each other because it is hinted in one of the Arthur's memories. Then something happens and Sally goes to live at Arthur's place, where she has a sexual intercourse with Arthur's dad, and when Arthur finds out about that, she runs away with nothing but a green dress to her name.
Green and white checked. Your dress, the last time I saw you. Running out the door.
And we then can assume that she somehow got very rich, because her house is looking very, very Kanye West.
It's in my code. It's in my code. Have y'all ever seen Wreck-It Ralph?
Even when comparing it to houses in the parade, not to mention she has a unique outfit made just for her, and in Wellington Wells, well, unique pieces of clothes are very hard to come by. In the intro, we can see Sally working in her lab, brewing something, when a sudden ring of a doorbell can be heard. Turns out it's one of the Sally's clients, and from the interaction they have, we can understand that Sally is brewing drugs, if it wasn't obvious from the start. The drug this addict is trying to find is Blackberry Joy, and we don't know what exactly this thing is. Sally refuses to give it to the guy, and he's not very happy about that.
Where is it? Where's the blackberry?
I'm making it!
You're lying!
It's a very delicate reaction.
You're saving it all for the bobbies!
Luckily, she is well prepared for this. The Downer smashed her entire house, and in the desperate need to get his fix, he ran upstairs, where he finds the oldest Mr. Breast Viewer. When he sees a real breathing human baby, he is shocked beyond belief. He completely forgot about his fix and he even refuses to believe it's real, trying to brush this idea of a baby away, considering it a hallucination. Sally quickly injects him with the knockout syringe and quickly hides the body. The thing about kids in Wellington Wells is, well, that there are no kids in Wellington Wells. Joy works as a contraceptive because, first of all, the kids will remind people about the train, and second, you can't really be happy with the kid around, due to heavy burden of the responsibility that you take from it. And I believe Wellington Wells didn't really need extra mouth to feed after the war, so perhaps Gwen, that's the name of the baby, by the way, perhaps might be the only child in Wellington Wells, and that is the reason why she kept it a secret. So I want to point out that right here that this game does an amazing job at asymmetrical storytelling. Now we know why Sally seemed so weird and anxious about running away. We know the thing that she kept secret from Arthur, and to be honest, Arthur now seems as even more a piece of shit. I didn't even know that was possible, to be honest. So the thing you will notice while playing as Sally is that some things are different. The dialogues are not identical, the location of some places and even the characters themselves behave differently. That is because, although it is not clearly stated in the game, the characters are the ones telling the story to you, and they are not really reliable at that. Look at Arthur, for example. The guy probably committed about 10 war crimes. Do you really think he wouldn't lie about some things in his story? After hiding the body and putting Gwen to sleep, you find out that the Downer did not only trash your lab, he also smashed all of the milk bottles you had. And your baby is hungry. Oh, lovely, just lovely. How many cows are there in Wellington Wells, do you think? I will tell you, it's the same amount as Arthur's redeeming qualities. Fucking bastard. Okay, no milk, got it. What else? Oh, you need me to get you some drugs as well? Lovely. And my lab is broken. Amazing. Basically, Sally's story can be summarized by saying that Sally is not having one jolly of a day, but we do learn something from it. Sally was the one who made the Blackberry Joy, a special type of joy made for the policemen that makes them happy, but at the same time clear-headed enough so they would do their work properly. And that is why bobbies talk somewhat normal in comparison to the townsfolk. The bobbies love it, but the drug is very addictive as it seems, so the safety of Sally is crucial for them. Bobbies decided to make her untouchable and overlook a lot of things she does, in return of her supply of Blackberry. Good deal with only one drawback. Once you are in, there is no going back. So Sally is pinned against the wall from all fronts. Well, first things first, we need to get some milk. We go to one of the shopkeepers to get it, and what do you think? Yes, you, in the back row. You gotta try it. Ding 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 ding! A fetch quest! Lovely! So now we need to get something from the Garden District. There's something being Uncle Jack records that are stored in his fan club. Quite a lovely place, I must say, but don't worry, see here? Townsfolk trust Sally. Surely we can convince the people to help me.
She's her!
And after a little bit of convincing the locals, we get back to the shopkeeper, get our milk, and go home. Surely it can't get any worse now, can it? I should just shut up, shouldn't I? So the lab needs fixing now, and the only place to get the necessary materials for it is Sally's old childhood house, located in the Garden District. Time to relive some old memories, I guess. And from Arthur's playthrough, we can grasp a bit about Sally's past. He briefly mentions her mom wasn't the best, and that she died when Sally was about 16, thus making her live with Arthur where she will, you know, do things.
Fucked my dad!
Upon arriving at Sally's place, we can see that, well, the place has seen better days. It's not really surprising, 90% of the buildings in the Garden District are like that, but better yet, the place is filled with plague victims, and I will say it now, the first time you play this section is terrifying. You likely don't have the syringes this early in the game, and your only option is to sneak around without game ending them, but considering them unique AI of this game, it is sometimes impossible to sneak successfully, which is a good feature, which adds to the immersion and the feeling of vulnerability of your character. After dealing with all the plague victims, Sally gets hit with a heavy, skull-piercing memory of her youth.
Well, young Miss Boyle, you know there's a curfew. You don't want some Fritz to shoot you dead, do you?
Sorry, sir.
Let's get you home. You had another fight with your mum, didn't you? Why don't I put in a good word? Mrs. Boyle, I've got a young lady out here who, I'm sorry. They don't seem to be at home.
What? Let me go in.
They're not at home. Let me take you to the station for a cup of tea.
What happened? Let me in.
Best you don't go in, miss. Cup of tea's best.
What did she do? What did she do? What did she do?
Sally hates her mom. She'll mention it a lot during this playthrough, but we never really have an idea why it is so, until now. As we can grasp from both Arthur's and Sally's perspective, her mom wasn't that good of a person to begin with, and the thought of losing her kids made her finally lose it. She quickly made a poison from the plant called foxglove and took down all of her family with it. Sally would have died too if she wasn't out for the day, so her survival is some sort of miracle in itself. Sally doesn't take her joy, she takes a supplement called Sunshine that was made by Dr. Verloc. It makes you seem like you are on joy when in reality you aren't. So her memories are all intact, and this is just something that she does not wish to remember, but unfortunately she does.
And Mum said, you don't have to worry about the train. No one's going on the train.
So after getting the parts she needed, the next step is to get some materials. And gladly, there is a friend who can help us. And by help, I mean a fetch quest, of course. Oh wait, maybe not.
Get out of here! Get out, you witch! And don't let the door hit you in the arse on the way out.
From this little interaction we can grasp that upon arriving into the city, Sally worked as an apothecary girl here, but always took much more interest in chemistry, so she fled to chase her dream when she had the chance. And gladly, we have another friend. We visit one of the old employees of Haworth's lab, the lab owned by Dr. Verloc himself. Oh, so this is the part where we get the fetch quest. Yes! After quickly finishing it, the guide teaches us how to extract the necessary ingredients from the toxic water, some of which can be found in the rat hole. And to there we go, I guess. The place is not that lovely, and again, really terrifying. With no cheese spores, and considering that fighting is not an option here due to Sally being a maneuver, sneaking through a whole army of the plague victims sends chill down your spine when you play this section. The next on our little to-do list is to find the human fluids of someone exposed to the mustard gas. Okay. And gladly, we have a friend for that. Now that this guy's bitch wife is gone, he gives us our old device that helps us extract body fluids from a person, and I'm not a fan of that. With this, the game becomes 1 bazillion% more easier. And remember what I said before about Sally not being able to strangle people? Well, forget it. Now she can, and she even gets fluids from that, and you need them to craft the cool chems. Now, the idea is cool, the animation is badass. Most of the time. But it kinda ruins the whole syringe shit. Sure, the syringe is way faster, but a hoarder like me will never use the damn thing, because I might need it later, you never know. I don't know, I don't really like the mechanic. I think it would have worked better as a finishing move, or if you could use them on corpses instead of real people, but this extractor is basically your taser from Condemned. Also, I forgot to mention, Sally is a mother, so sometimes during the game you will have to go home and feed the baby or even change your diapers. Ew. But if you don't do it, it becomes too much to bear for Sally. Get it? You get these totems that weigh you down until you go to your child, and this is fucking amazing, I love it. After going back home, we find out that someone got into our house during the time we were away, but luckily it is not someone dangerous. General Bing himself, the one Sally mentioned in Arthur's playthrough, is here for us. Sally has good connections, thanks to her sharp wits. Not only is she protected by the policeman, but by the general himself. And he comes to us for our drugs, and apparently Sally has some of the good stuff that helps forget something. It seems our general has something that he wants to forget, but to be honest, don't we all? During our short conversation, Gwen starts crying.
What on earth is that?
Are you hallucinating? Rainbow has all sorts of crazy side effects.
It couldn't be a cat. Hasn't been a cat since the...
But after some art of seduction...
Shame I won't remember any of yours.
You do come here to forget.
Fuck you!
This is the last time, I promise. She sprays some sort of a forget-me shot.
The forget-me shot.
Onto him, and we travel to the sweet depths of Nirvana. Like pretend there is some track by Nirvana that's playing right now. I really don't want this video to be taken down. Our trip wasn't long, so after checking on Gwen to make sure that she's alright and hoping that the general forgot about the crying, we head back into the city to meet with yet another friend that will provide us with the info about someone who was exposed to the mustard gas. The meeting happens in a familiar alley where we meet the man, the myth, the fucking bastard Arthur Hastings. You already heard the interaction, there is no point to listen to it again, but as I said, some of the dialogues are different. After finding a World War II vet that our friend told us about and helping him feel better, we need the last ingredient. Thank you, our Lord and Savior, Uncle Jack. Thank you. For it, we need to see some weird sisters that helped Sally before. Quick! To the Joymobile! Just kidding, there are no vehicles in this game. Although you can vroom around rather well sometimes. With the power of the flashback, Sally remembers something about
witches on Instagram right now, under your nose, getting millions of views.
So, to the gun district we go. After going up the spooky hill where they are filming the new DC movie, we meet the
witches.
So, I still don't understand if all this is real or not, or is it just Sally going crazy because she's a single mother? But anyway, we asked them to help us and they basically go like, well, we can't just give it to you. First we need to do some fetch quests to grow the person, because who would have seen that coming? Fuck you, game. And the first thing we need to do to grow the person is to open the chest and put bricks inside, because reasons. Listen, this part with witches is the same part as Dr. Faraday's arc in Arthur's playthrough. It's really boring, with a lot of pointless running around and doing boring quests. It's so anti-fun, it's disgusting.
Disgusting!
And the next thing on the chopping block is stopping a suicide cult from killing themselves by killing them instead. Haha! Now you can't kill yourself, you bold fuck. Go and live a happy life in hell! So, the thing they are brewing is the thing we need for the Blackberry Joy. Yeah, remember that? Guys, it was a bit worth it. So, now we need to stop this suicide cult by entering their lair. Although this mission is pretty cool in concept, they fucked it up very hard here. You can do this exact thing in Arthur's playthrough as a side quest, but here you have to disable 1,000,000 of dart traps. The area is much slower, there are no enemies anywhere, and the main secret of the place is inaccessible. At least the voice acting is good.
Leave the flashback and be our soul, be only our soul. It's not suicide, suicide is giving up. This is taking a leap of faith.
So, after stopping them from killing themselves, now with a less effective way, you face the leader of the cult, hit him a couple of times, and now you are done with this part. Hooray! We should finally help us brew the thing by giving us a butterfly net. So we catch some with no accidents, return to our lab and finish the damn thing. We're then visited by Bobby that kindly asks us to drug his colleagues, and he's quite delighted to see that we are all done with the batch. The guys even want to thank us for it.
Miss Boyle, Miss Boyle, Miss Boyle makes the world go round. Miss Boyle, Miss Boyle, Miss Boyle makes the world go round. Miss Boyle, Miss Boyle, Miss Boyle makes the world go round. Miss Boyle makes the world go round. O-M-H-A-P-P-Y to the F-R-E-E, F-R-E-E to the S-A-V-E-D, S-A-V-E-D from the bonds of S-I-N. Glory, glory, hallelujah, hip hooray, amen, sing hallelujah, sing hallelujah. For the sixpence on a drum, save another drunken bum, sing hallelujah, sing hallelujah. For the sixpence on the drum and you'll be saved.
What the hell is this?
Yes, you know, it was worth it after all. Upon exiting the police station, Sally gets a weird sinking feeling in her stomach, sensing that something is not right, so she hurries back home and sees that Gwen is dead. Or she has some sort of rash all over her, and it is pretty much obvious that she got infected with measles. Sally is not having it easy, is she? So, to cure the baby, we need cod liver oil. Wait a bloody minute.
Oh, you shouldn't have asked for that ridiculous cod liver oil.
Now she doesn't seem that awful at all. I love you, Sally. You're like the best character in the game now.
There.
As easy as unhooking a bra.
So, the only place she knows she can find cod liver oil is in Hayworth's lab, the Verloc's lab, and as it turns out, they don't really like her there. And now it's necessary to give a little background here. During her work time as an apothecary, she and her boss visited Hayworth Labs, and for Sally, it was an experience like no other. She was basically a kid at a toy shop. Additionally, she took an interest in Dr. Verloc himself, later leaving the apothecary job and starting working at the lab at the same time. She also formed a relationship with Verloc, which additionally granted her an ability to grow as a chemist even further. In fact, she got so good with the chemistry that she was able to form a solution to a city starving and crumbling under the weight of the lost war. A solution so small it could fit into a pocket, but at the same time, its effectiveness was unmatched. With little ingredients she could find, she managed to create a pill of strawberry joy. Fearing that her greatness could surpass his own, Verloc took the credit for the creation of the pill. After some time though, as joy became mandatory, the little left supply started dwindling at an alarming rate. So when he realizes that there is not so much joy left to create, Verloc started working at a permanent solution, which alarmed Sally even more. Later, Verloc will try to mess with the strawberry formula as a permanent solution was not really going that well, and that will result in a plague epidemic, and you know the rest of the story. After some time working with the guy, Sally got thrown out into the rain as a way to teach her a lesson by Verloc. She then headed to the witches for comfort, where she first found out she was pregnant.
Pregnant?
Obviously, she did not take her joy during that time, and the father could only be him. In fear of what Verloc might do to the baby, Sally decided that she's not coming back and decided to open her own shop for business. But not before she took all of her formulas with her, which angered Verloc even more. Not only did she create a competition for him, but she also messed with his work. Well, it was Sally's work to begin with, but no matter. There she created Blackberry Joy, which constables really liked, but it was not enough as a means of protection against Verloc, so she asked for help from General Bing, to which he surprisingly agreed, and Sally secured herself a successful, protected from all sides business. So now we know the story. All of the troubles of Wellington Wells that were present during the war were hidden under the veil of mandated happiness. And, you know, your problems, your memories that you try to hide from yourself have a tendency to come back and hit you hard. The problems increased tenfold. There is a plague epidemic, city is barely keeping together, and God knows what else is happening there. And all of this is because of Sally Boyle. If she did not create the pill of happiness, none of this would have happened. We'll discuss this a bit later, and now let's get back to the story. Surprisingly, Verloc is not very keen on helping us, and instead he orders the Bobbies to arrest us, but they simply let us go instead, as they are a bunch of simps. Simp! There's only one last person remaining willing to help us at this point, and we all know who he is. Can I just turn the game off now?
My dad?
We find the guy in the Garden District, listen to his whining again.
I suppose it would be too much to expect. Don't worry, Arthur. I will ask my friend the General for a rotten scrap of paper just for old time's sake.
And then head off to see the General and get a letter of transit for Arthur. Yay! He's awfully delighted to see us, and he even gives us the letter we need with no fetch quest. Amazing. Or is it?
Oddest thing, last time I was there, I could swear I heard something that sounded like a cat. But I haven't seen a cat since the war. Have you? Fortunately, I wrote myself a note. Sally's got a baby.
Sally tries to weasel out of the conversation, but it's all futile. He is old, but not dumb. He even knows whose baby it is and understands the consequences of telling the man about it.
It's Dr. Verloc's baby, isn't it? No wonder you never told him. God knows what he'd do to a baby. you might have told me.
Sally asks him to get them out of the country, but Bing says that it's only possible for the baby and not for her. Sally is just too valuable as a chemist, and the Bobbies will go insane if the Blackberry joint will go away, so he just can't spare her. Sally is against the idea of sending Gwen away, but General brushes off the thought, saying,
Why not? It's traditional, a single girl in trouble, not equipped to take care of her baby. I'd have thought you'd be grateful. You'll end up in one of Dr. Verloc's glass cells, and even I won't be able to save you.
So now we have the letter, but Arthur might not be done yet, so we have some time to do some scouting. One of Bing's soldiers mentioned that he has a boat that with some work can be still functional. Sally decides to check the place out, and as it turns out, the boat really can be used, but there is no one smart or sober enough to fix the thing. To get the boat running, we need a new engine, and Dr. Faraday is the only one who can get us the new one. Please not another fetch quest, please. But before that, we need to find our boy. The scene is pretty much the same, but this time we see something different. Before Arthur leaves, Sally manages to tell him the truth, but he just ignores her?
Boyle! I've got a baby!
Fuck no, baby!
Now, keep in mind, in Arthur's route, we hear none of that. He just leaves. But this here proves that Sally does feel something for him. She trusts him with her most precious secret, but alas, the guy is a piece of shit. Now, it could be possible that it's Sally who is lying, but come on now, we all know whose fault it is. We feed the Gwen her meds and then head to Faraday. She's very busy being dead, but we know the truth.
I don't like people. They want things. Disturbs my thought processes.
Oh my god, she's literally me.
My pain is constant and sharp, and I do not hope for a better world for anyone. In fact, I want my pain to be inflicted on others.
That's a shame. I rather like people.
I used to have the most beautiful collection of records. Helped me tune everyone out. But all my records blew up with my house.
What the fuck is this Tommy Wiseau writing?
Anyway, how is your sex life?
Anyway, fetch quest, anyway, break into a house, let's get on with it. So this part is pretty neat, the quest is rather good, but the funny thing is, this mission is once again available during the Arthur's route, but as a side quest. And we arrive at the scene sometime after Arthur does. So we can already see that some of the stuff is broken or missing, which is really cool. After dodging some lasers, we get our hands on the new Kanye West album and head back to Dr. F. She fixes our engine nice and smooth, and the only thing left is to get the General's key from his desk. That surely won't go wrong. The break-in is not very simple, as the General has a lot of defense measures, but luckily for us, Sally is a parkour expert.
Let's go! Yahoo! Mamma mia! No! Wahoo!
Upon arriving to the General's desk, all that's left is to get the key, and then everything is over. There's absolutely no one left in this country to be attached to, but I gotta say, getting here was a bit too easy for my taste.
No, no.
We're then confronted by the General himself, who acts not that surprised about it, almost as he expected Sally to do a stunt like this. His reasoning is not far off, and it seems like he does care about Sally's baby, or he cares that he doesn't end in his hands. He even has a proposal for Sally. The General is in possession of a huge amount of supplies, enough for a whole family to live on for years. Of course he wants Sally to stay here, but, well, he takes Gwen outside of town. Sally obviously refuses the offer, but it wasn't an offer in the first place.
Not gonna do that.
I think you will. Baby's going to get hungry if you're not there to feed her.
Sally pleads for him to at least keep the child here, but the general doesn't want to keep a child in the cage. And that might be a good idea, actually. Sally then applies her art of seduction to spark a fire of lust inside the general's mind, and that buys her just enough time to take action. This confrontation is amazing. This is your boss fight of this act, at least you can treat it like that. But Sally can't just brute force the guy, he's twice her size for Christ's sake. Instead, you have to outsmart him. By locking herself inside the lab and finding what ingredients she can, Sally brews a form of sleeping gas and decides to go all in. After powering the generator in the main room, she fills the fountain with the potion, and that makes the general really sleepy.
You bloody witch!
Sleep tight, creepy old fuck. Inside Bing's office, we see a painting of him and his daughter, and we can understand why he was so protective of Gwen. He himself had a daughter. With that, we get our stuff back and make a dash for it. But, you know, the thing about bad guys is that they always come back.
I've done terrible things, Sally. I had to do them, but the mob despised me for it. I think I deserve a little consolation in my old age.
I'm not your consolation prize.
This whole interaction shows what kind of character Sally is. She knows her way with people and when to show her soft and gentle side. She can always think of some way to solve a difficult situation with what she can find, and if pushed into a corner, she can fight back relentlessly. Now, there is no place safe. The doctors are patrolling the streets. There is no more protection by the general, and bobbies are going to come back knocking for another fix very soon. Sally needs to make a run for it now. Taking a breath and gathering all that little strength that she had left, she heads home. Which is no longer a castle. On her very doorstep, a crooked, dreadful figure stands, looking for a way in with a horrendously oversized smile morphed into his face. Sally is too late. Verloc already sent one of his boys in, just as the general said. Sally tries to pull off her general card, but it is no use. Verloc simply doesn't care anymore.
I don't think he much cares anymore what mood Sir Robert is in.
The doctor forces himself in and tries to sniff around to find something when a sudden smell hits his nostrils. That was the smell of something long time forgotten.
That's a baby.
Yes. Isn't she adorable? Bucket.
Couldn't have said it better myself. The only thought that had left in Sally's mind was one and only one word. Run. She grabs Gwen and what supplies she can carry and makes one last desperate run. As a player, this section is very tough. You cannot fight back while you carry Gwen and have to avoid doctors and some people you see, so you have to be very, very careful. Or you can skip this whole part and just quick travel.
Oh god, my feet are killing me.
Game design. Finally, we reach the Boyle house, and our destination lies right in front of us. It's time to leave everything behind. This whole empire, a business that Sally built. She almost became the next Heisenberg of Wellington Wells. She had everything. Money, connections, friends. She could even avoid taking her joy. And we leave all of that behind because of a child, and not just any child, the child of the evil incarnate. But there is something more than that. Why risk your life, your success, and everything what you have for this? There is nothing for you out there. No one can even guarantee your survival there. You are heading headfirst into nothing with only one thing that will keep you going. And that thing is called hope. Hope that somewhere out there exists a better life. Life that is not filled with rotting food, constant smiling, and people pretending to be alright. Somewhere out there, there is a better life. And we carry our hope to find it. Always. What a magnificent game this is. I just can't even begin to start drawing conclusions here. And no? What the hell is this? Are you kidding me? No! Good day to you, people of Magic School Bus channel. It is the time again when Uncle Bass, that's me, is going to tell you about this game called WeHappyFew, okay now? And now tell me, are you guys tired? Exhausted a bit? It's okay, just pause this broadcast, go take a walk, and have a rest. No one watches this broadcast in one sitting, that would be a torture now. Anyway, after you are done, don't forget to pop a joy. Always remember, happiness is a choice, my dear viewers. Now, let's get back to our lovely broadcast. The first thing I thought when I saw the Act 3 pop up was, who the fuck is Ollie? Well, it's a Scottish guy.
Go eat a banger, you leaky scanner!
Scotland forever!
And let me be clear, this act is very weird. From the story perspective, it is the strongest of the bunch, but from the gameplay standpoint, the whole act feels rushed. There are very little side quests, things happen too hastily sometimes, and there are a bunch of things that are wrong with the character, but we'll get to that. First, let's take a look at Ollie himself. His character is a polar opposite of Sally. Instead of being a sneaky bastard, he is a tough bastard. He hits almost twice as hard, he can carry a lot of things with him, he's super tanky, but he is very slow. He's very good at crafting, but when it comes to chemistry...
I'll give it a whirl. How the hell does all this work?
Additionally, taking joy as him is super bad as you vomit everywhere, the memory loss happens faster, and the withdrawal is longer. On top of that, Ollie suffers from sugar level problems, so you will have to make glucose syringes to either increase or decrease the sugar levels. If your sugar level is too low, you will start swearing at random people, and if it is too high, in case you eat something sweet, your health will decrease over time. Another thing to consider is that Ollie hates Uncle Jack, okay, and if he spots someone who is a member of the Uncle Jack fan club, they will immediately become aggressive towards you, and, well, the thing is, I don't know what the fuck are they eating down there and the Uncle Jack fan club, but these guys are tougher than anything, even the doctors for some reason. They have almost full armor and they wear super strong weaponry with them. So yeah, that's Ollie for you. Our story begins just during the time Arthur escaped the military camp, during the execution of the master plan made by Ollie. Oh my god, she's alive. I'm kidding. Ollie has some sort of PTSD, so he sees his deceased daughter everywhere, and I mean everywhere, probably even in the shitter. So there wasn't anything special about the trip to the military camp. Ollie just wanted some supplies of spam, V-meat, and a doll from Margaret the ghost. Lovely. Instead of giving the doll to her, Ollie instead places it near her portrait, which gives the idea that he fully understands that she is dead, but either he can't cope with it, or he's just slowly losing his mind over loneliness. Anyway, our boy is back. Who here is happy? Me! Okay. Arthur brings the topic of tanks again, but now we can see the Margaret in the room, and we have a different view on the said topic. Margaret asks if we knew that the tanks were hollow, but Ollie states that he didn't, saying,
"Don't forget a thing like that."
Margaret also says that Ollie was General Secretary, but that doesn't really change anything. We also get to know that Margaret have died because of the Germans, but we are not explained what exactly happened. We give Arthur his thingamajiggy, and away he goes. Ollie decides that he needs to see the general about the tanks, and oh my god, my house is under attack. So we need to defend ourselves against the wastrels who are trying to blow us up with barrels.
Oh, barrels! You little fucking what you are!
That's rather interesting intro. And after some fighting, we get trapped in the fire and realize that the only way out is to use the parachute Ollie has. After the giveaway of the tickets to the Horny Jail, we grab all we can carry and yeet ourselves from the roof.
Trunks away!
Margaret, wait for me!
This works. For some reason. Oliver remembers a friend he had, but sadly he also remembers that he was captured. I guess we go see him then. Upon arriving at the house he's being kept at, we can find out that the guy would rather die than would be saved by our good guy Ollie, saying that Ollie will always make it worse somehow. Well, whatever. We help him anyway, because that's what the good guys do, and we are definitely the good guys in this situation. The guy deserted because he was just bored from doing the same stuff over and over, and that's understandable. But now he's nothing but a ticket to the general for us. He gives us some sort of password with a secret meme, and with that we once again head for the Victory Memorial Camp. Of course, there were no victory to begin with, and you are going to hear that a lot during the game. Uncle Jack tells you about the victory over the Germans, people of Wellington will also tell you about it, even the main source of meat is called V-meat, which means victory meat. But was there any victory in the first place? Sure, Germans themselves did not kill anyone, with the exception of Margaret as it seems, but the country still lost a huge amount of people, and not just any people, they lost kids, the future of any country, so that can be hardly considered a victory for anyone. Some will say it was even worse than the possible defeat. So now we can see one of the reasons joy became mandatory. The victory is a giant lie and a cover-up made by the government, but if the people are just a tiny bit smart, they will immediately see through this cover-up story, and luckily for the government, this is definitely not the case. Arriving at the memorial camp, we tell the guy a password, he lets us in, but the camp itself is off limits for us. After some captuation shenanigans, we make our way inside of the camp, where we meet one of our actual friends who can help us exit the facility while we are completing our Snake Eater mission. Now it's time to meet the general. We already know some stuff about him from the Sally's route, but his background is not that familiar for us. Nor is his relation to Ollie. Obviously he was a sergeant and his secretary back in the day, but that hardly tells us anything about the relationship they had. Ollie starts a conversation with an amazing open.
The tanks were fake! The German tanks! In the camp! Paper mash!
But the general doesn't act that surprised. In fact, he sounds annoyed by it. It's not a revelation, it's a nuisance for him. Now, I want you to hear this conversation fully, and then we will discuss it.
In 1946, before they took the children.
I know when they took the children, Ollie.
We could have risen up. We could have saved them. I could have saved my daughter.
Really? Would the good townsfolk of Wellington Wells have followed me into the machine guns? Or would they all have hidden in their basements?
But after the war, you can't keep a secret like that, sir.
Ollie, the safest secret in the world is a secret no one wants to hear.
Why didn't you tell me?
Oh, Ollie, don't you recall? You used to have such a good memory. You typed all my correspondence. When they requisitioned the newspaper and the glue, they needed quite a lot.
You knew?
There's holes in my memory. Like a church made of cheese and all the congregation is mice. They have to know the truth, sir. We have to tell them.
The truth has too terrible a cost. Isn't that the decision we all made? Anyway, I'm out here in the Victory Memorial Camp. You don't think I'm the one who decides these things, do you?
Who's minding the bloody store, then?
The Executive Committee in City Hall. Why don't you drop by for a chat? I'm sure they'd happily listen to the ravings of a mad Scotsman from the Garden District.
They'd listen to you, sir.
They'd tear me apart like starved jackals, and then they'd pop a joy. I think you should visit Sally Boyle.
I don't want to forget.
Really? Because we had this exact conversation a year ago.
Not only did Ollie knew this all along, he was a part of it. And then, like the rest, he chose to forget, visiting Sally Boyle over and over again, so there was no memory, no thought, no recollection of the horrible crime he has committed. But when it hits him from somewhere deep within, he remembers a fraction of a thought and then chooses to forget again. It's a never-ending loop of agony that can only be broken by facing your past and making things right. Apparently General doesn't have that much power left, and the ones who are in power are the Executive Committee, aka the government of Wellington Wells, who are so powerful they can rip even the General apart. So Ollie decides to ask someone named Miss Bing, presumably General's daughter, who we saw in the drawing, but never met personally. The General is against that, if you can put it like that. He immediately raises the alarm and Ollie makes a daring escape in the food cart that his friend offered him. Miss Bing lives in the village, so it means we need to cross a bridge to find her. Luckily, the bridge was almost fully destroyed by the plague Westeros, so we don't have to pull off any crazy tricks Arthur did during his route. We enter the village, properly greet the locals, and during the night we sneak into the Miss Bing estate. The manor she lives in is huge in comparison to other houses. She even has her own garden, which is awfully uncommon in these parts. Either she's Donald Trump of these lands.
Oh, I just pulled your IP. 308 Negra Aurora Lane, Albuquerque, New Mexico. That's you, isn't it?
No. Or born with rich parents. Oh wait, it's kind of the same thing, is it?
You know, I started off in Brooklyn. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million.
We gladly enter the manor as the door wasn't locked and meet Miss Bing in person. And turns out she was the Arthur's boss from the intro, which is surprising, as I totally expected her to be someone else. Anyway, it seems like she knows Ollie personally. Ollie then states the obvious, saying that the city is starving, but Miss Bing just suggests him to take his joy instead. And I want to quickly mention that you never actually notice that the people are skinny, as you think it's just a form of visual design, but if you think about it, just look at these noodle arm and legs. Obviously they are reaching anorexia grounds, if not already, and considering that almost all the food you find in these houses is rotting, the city is indeed starving. Ollie then states that Miss Bing was friendly to him even during the parts he got confused, and demands to let people know the truth, but she hastily refuses as...
No, Ollie. People do not need to know the truth. Truth is the enemy of happiness. Isn't that the decision we all made?
We all made? So she was present at the decision of Tank's creation along with Ollie, which means they are all the creators of this horrible deception. Ollie then understands what it means and realizes that there is nothing left to tell her. She already knows everything, but instead chooses to forget, and suggests for Ollie to do the same.
I'm truly sorry about this, Miss Bing.
Help!
Excuse me, but what the fuck did you say to me, little shit? I will let you know, I graduated at the top of my class in Wellington Wells Army, and I have more than 300 confirmed kills. So Ollie ties her down in order to get some answers. Bing even refuses to listen to him and demands her joy. She really doesn't wish to remember even a tiniest bit of what happened. She pleads for her joy, but we refuse.
They don't want the whole truth. No one wants the whole truth.
No one wants the whole truth. It was obvious from the start of the game that it is indeed the reason behind everything, but saying it now feels very disturbing in some way. Ollie then realizes he needs to give her some time, so she would come to her senses, but it ends up in her crying over the need of a happy pill.
Why won't you give me my joy?
We scout the house and find out that Miss Bing is actually living a very luxurious life. She has a maid, a very spacious bathroom, and the whole house is just filled with stuff screaming, "I have money!" But most importantly, she has coffee beans. Not a single person in this city has access to coffee. All they are drinking is chicory, as no one does any trade deals with regular wealth anymore, as it is physically impossible to secure a trade deal with a person that is stoned beyond existence. And as you might have guessed, coffee doesn't really grow in the UK, so this is basically gold or diamonds at this point. We find her pill bottle and then return it to her. I see what you did there, game.
Why the fuck are you doing this? You evil downer bastard!
After doing a little stomp over them, she suffers a mental breakdown and starts sobbing once again. Now comes a pretty funny interaction where she gets a letter from someone and we have to go over her notes in order to make a proper response. We type in the answer, send it back, and now we're in for a new part of sobbing and whining. And there is a knock on the door. Awesome. We shush the woman and answer the door. Ollie does a perfect impersonation of the general being's voice and tells the woman behind the door off.
I haven't got time to chit-chat. We're trying to save the world.
This works. We go back to Bing after some time to find her singing.
Lock her up, take the key, and lock her up, my fair lady.
I brought some food.
I made them sing, Ollie, so they wouldn't be afraid. But then they had to get on the train. Do you remember how they screamed?
The memories are coming back to her slowly but steadily. And same as before, the memories hurt a lot. We then make some coffee yogurt for the milady and feed it to her.
This is awful. You've ruined it.
She loves it. Great.
The fucking bus is fucking raw!
And another doorbell. Now it's the gardeners. We shush the woman again and answer the door. We try our famous maid impersonation, but the guy wants us to open the door. Well, shushing the woman is not enough. We throw her in the closet, quickly change into the maid outfit, start using Linux, and open the door. This works!
You can't keep getting away with it!
Now another letter, another answer, yada yada, let's get to the good stuff. God fucking damn it, not again. Now it's the constable. We'll tell him to come from the back and convince him to leave, and after that she finally breaks.
The children won't stop screaming.
You have to talk to them. Then they settle down for a bit.
Are you mad?
Aye. We could have saved them, you know. The tanks were made of papier-mâché. Little Artie Hastings tore a hole in one of them.
What could that possibly matter now?
I suppose it doesn't. Except that's just the first lie. Then comes the victory that wasn't, and then the happy pills, and the Simon Says because the kids are all gone. You can paint loaves of bread on the shop windows all you like, but if people don't wake up, we're all going to starve to death.
Now we get her to cooperate and force her to confront her past. It's painful but necessary. This whole interaction from start to finish has been disgusting and disturbing no matter how much funny juice you put on it. The desire to forget makes people insane. They will tear each other apart the first moment they can get if faced with the truth. And no matter how long will you hide and run away from your memories and the past, they will always catch up. And when they do, they will break you, like they broke Miss Bing. But the good part didn't last long. Miss Bing performs a Johnny Cage X-ray on us.
Go see the executive committee.
And dashes away saying that
in an hour, you horrible little man. I won't even know you exist.
We find the letter of transit and barely escape with our body intact, but now we can get to the parade where the people from the executive committee are working. But it appears the bridge is not working, and our only route to the parade is sealed tight. And if you remember, Arthur was the last person to cross this bridge in his route. Great. Margaret then tells us that the only person who can help us is... Oh, no! Another fetch quest. Yay! The homeboys want us to collect some bees for the flowers they grow. And God, I am glad this is not Fallout New Vegas. We load the bee cannon, which is sorta a new weapon, and spread them in the garden. Another fetch quest complete.
A great success!
And if there is an Act 4, I will become Joker. The boys tell us about a tunnel that is just below the Uncle Jack fan club. the most fabulous place in the world, and only a complete degenerate will not see it as so. They also drop a hint about a giant air balloon that is stashed there. We can use it for our grand escape after the meetup with the executive committee. Thank you, fellas. Margaret also tells us where we can find the helium to fill the balloons. It's in that lab Arthur blew a hole in.
My dad!
So we infiltrate the Jacobean Club and witness that they possess demonic powers over there, but before that, Ollie told us why exactly he hates Uncle Jack that much. Jack Worthing, that is the real name of the Uncle Jack, was the voice of propaganda during the German occupation, and his voice associates with Germans, the source of everything that happened, and the sole reason of him being on TV pisses him off even more, because people forgot who he used to be. In his rage, Ollie smashed TVs and even blew up a radio tower. Additionally, Jack was the reason Margaret was killed. Ollie tried to hide her, but he just ratted her out. Now we can even justify his anger and hatred towards Uncle Jack, but there is a slight thing we're missing. Something doesn't click here. Anyway, we sneak through the place listening to the insane ramblings of the fan club, we snatch the balloon in the cellar and find the hatch to the parade. The hatch leads us to a boutique in which Arthur also stayed for some time, but it's way different now. The whole place is smashed and destroyed, and there are aggressive plague wasters everywhere. Now we witness the consequences of Arthur's actions. Because of him, all of the parade is now filled with plague victims. It is pure chaos on the streets. The screaming of Old English, the zapping sounds of the batons and rustling of bone saws could be heard from all corners of the district. Fighting our way through, we reach the lab and shoot ourselves into the same guy that had his wall broken down by Arthur not so long ago.
I hope this doesn't tear off any bits you'll miss later.
Why didn't you mention that before?
We get ourselves a helium tank and head for the broadcasting tower, the place where it all will end. Our last quest, named The Truth Shall Set You Free, has begun. But before we dive into it, I want to take a break. I really want it to be a conclusion of our journey, so let's talk about some more things first. I'm so glad you could join me on this wonderful adventure. Please, make yourself comfortable and don't forget to pop a joy, okay? We don't want you to become one of those downers from the game, right? So, this game is a masterpiece, as you might have guessed. Right, absolutely flawless masterpiece of a game this is, and I'm sorry guys, I'll be right back. Shit, fuck, shit, I'm out of copium, I'm in joy, I'm out of joy, no! From the technological standpoint, this game is trash, I'm sorry guys, every little thing in this game is inconsistent as fuck. The animations can be beautiful, and they can also be this. The fighting can be cool, and it can also be this.
Get happy! Cheer up, you bum! Take your joy!
The atmosphere can be jaw-dropping, but it breaks immediately when you see something like this. One of the things these types of games will always try to accomplish is keeping you immersed at all time. In my last video, I talked about how the story of Disco Elysium always makes you feel immersed and interested into what's going on in the game. The game has a lot of immersion breakers, such as bugs and some things that just don't make sense. Let's talk about the bugs first. The game is one of the most buggy games I have ever seen. Only a fraction of them are game-breaking, but most of them are super annoying. I stitched a bit of a compilation for you guys, please enjoy.
Yahoo!
Just relax. Don't question it. Please just lie down.
Amazing. Mission complete. That right there is why you're the best, boss. The one and only.
Lovely day.
The world. My final message.
Stop! You violated the law. Pay the court a fine or serve your sentence. Your stolen goods are now.
I want to apologize.
Someone needs a nap!
Nanomachine, son!
Cheer up!
This is not even a rare thing. Bugs happen everywhere and all the time in this game. This is just ridiculous, and considering that this game was from a Kickstarter and in early access for a pretty long time, you would think that they will fix some of it, but no. Although I think the bugs can be overlooked here. You see, it is one thing when a AAA studio makes a game that looks like this.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What?
And when a small studio makes a game like this. I also want to talk a bit about the enemies in the game, and first of all, I want to apologize. Yes, I lied to you, my dear viewers. That's right, I, Magic Schoolbass, the most sincere and objective YouTuber on this platform, lied to you. But it was for your own good. Remember when I told you about the doctors and how terrifying they are? Well, forget about it. Almost all of them die in one hit. Why? The moment you fight them head on, you will realize just how pathetic these guys are. The swords do no damage, blocking them is a breeze, and their health pool is minuscule. How did you fuck this up so bad? They shouldn't be like Reapers in Subnautica, where it is never an option to fight them, but make them feel like they are tough. And on the difficulty spectrum, I think the game goes too lightly on you and is super forgiving at times. I feel like they should have added an extra difficulty setting because it feels so easy. Enemies become a breathe on any character in the middle point of the game. Sneaking is tough, sure, but it is tough because of the broken AI and the occasional bug here and there. But I think the most stupid thing in the game is the hunger and thirst mechanic. I bet at this point you forgot completely that this game was a survival game, but it is! The way your hunger and thirst meter work is that no matter how much you eat or drink, you will never die from both. Instead, they will give you a very annoying debuff, but that like never happens. You see, you can find food and water in practically everywhere. It's enough to loot like 2 to 3 houses and be good for the rest of the game. Even during the storyline, there are plenty of food everywhere, so I don't know, at least make it feel like these stats matter. They really serve no purpose if they don't kill you. Now, I want to compare this game to Pathologic. Pathologic is one of my favorite games of all time, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but H-Bomber guy out of all people made a really good video on it. You can check it if you want to know more about the game. I think during the development they were looking at this game in particular as an example, because there are some similarities here and there. Or it might be a coincidence, I don't know. Pathologic also features 3 playable characters, stories of which are tied together. The game is also a survival surreal horror type of game with the same idea of isometrical storytelling. You can also loot houses, fight everything you see, and even if the developers weren't inspired by Pathologic specifically, they perhaps should have been. Instead of hunger and water being a nuisance, why don't you make it an actual mechanic? The town is starving, for God's sake, make me feel like it. You have the rudiment of an idea, but it's not executed enough. You have special meds that make you stop vomiting, but they are utterly useless because you almost never eat rotten food to begin with. You also have skills to eat food that has gone rotten, which are, once again, useless. Also, the characters' connection to each other is very, very half-assed. Sally and Arthur are fine, but Ollie? You meet him once in Arthur's route and that's it. Sure, Ollie himself knows Sally, but he never meets her. The character feels so disconnected from the event of the first 2 acts of the game. And the whole asymmetrical storytelling could have been executed a lot better, instead of some small details here and there. Of course, I have to mention the length of the game. The game is very long, especially if you do side quests. It can take you literally forever to finish it. And you know, I give credit to the developers. It's very ballsy for a small indie team to release a project this ambiguous, and I can forgive them for the mistakes they made in the process, but there are some parts you can definitely remove from the game. Of course, open world games will always be bad. There are like 3 or 4 that are genuinely good, but this game out of all games should have been one. And of course, it feels crappy. The runs are too long every time, the world is empty, even more empty than Ubisoft games, but when you finally realize how quick travel works, because the game never specifically tells you how it works, it becomes less of an issue. Now some minor, more subjective complaints because I'm an asshole. In this game, if you sit down, you are literally an immortal. Any NPC that decides to sit his ass down is untouchable in stealth, and thus he forces you to use the distraction items that never work for some reason. There are too many cheese spots in this game. Basically, you can do whatever batshit insane stuff you want, press V on a random barrel and you are gone, disappeared from existence. And now for Ollie. I love the idea that you literally state in the opening how the guy can't fit in, but you still give him the skill to be more talkative and get better prices at shops? What? And you give him a skill that removes Joy's side effects despite him literally being in withdrawal for years. And on top of that, he needs to use Joy only once during his entire playthrough. Additionally, the blood sugar level literally makes no sense. If you fuck up with the sugar, which happens rarely, but still, why does he gain a health drop debuff that is barely noticeable because of how tanky he is? Why not swap the debuffs around? If you eat sugar on the street, it will increase the tension and the needed feeling of oh shit! And if it's slow, make it cure Ollie, so there will be an emergency of eating something sweet or injecting a syringe. And last but not least, Joy. Oh joy, oh joy, oh joy, why is it so bad? It takes you 1 year of actual time to get a memory loss, facts, and when it happens you can just quick travel and sleep it over. Why not make it a game over? Sure, it will be very punishing, but is it not the point? This will make the game more thrilling to play and the joy usage will become more tactical, because in this game you can take how much joy you want with literally no consequences. It's so stupid. So despite all of that, I think that... Wait, who the fuck are you? How did you get in my house? Ah! Good evening to you, my dear viewers. Are you feeling alright? Did you take your joy today? Of course you did, why am I asking even? I believe all of my viewers are smart enough to take their joy regularly, or God knows what will happen, maybe some raccoons will see that you are not that happy and will bite you for that, yes? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, it seems like we're having a bit of interference here. Hope this will not repeat again. Now, despite all the things that's obviously bad, there is also a tremendous amount of things that are good. Let's start with the most obvious one, atmosphere. The game is amazing at making you feel out of place, despite that the main goal of the game is to
fit in.
You always feel like a 14-year-old gamer at the school, realizing that you are surrounded by morons. The game is super creepy when it needs to be.
That's a joke.
They heard someone crying.
Love to chat, but I'm expecting Sir Robert any moment.
Then you shouldn't have provoked Dr. V like that, after he tried so hard to put you out of his mind.
Look, you tell Anton that the General is going to be really fucking pissed off.
I don't think he much cares anymore what mood Sir Robert is in.
Ultra depressing during some times. And shocking when the time is right. The world is filled with a tremendous amount of details here and there. The one I like the most is the music. If you don't take your joy, which you totally should by the way, just a quick reminder, you'll realize that there is no music in this world. Just your regular noise of steps, talking of strangers.
Should we gather for whiskey and cigars tonight? Chances are very good.
And Uncle Jack talking from TVs that are literally everywhere.
Want to be out after dark, do you? Foggy Jack might come for you. And then where would you be?
And even if you do find some discs with music on it, the music itself will be heavily distorted and very uncomfortable to listen to. Thanks to this lovely redditor who pointed out, the music is meant to be like this, because everything speeds up on joy. This is amazing. There are a lot of details like this scattered everywhere in the game. My favorite is this one. During every single playthrough you encounter this NPC, who is basically a main child playing with dolls that he pretends are super agents. When you help him as Arthur to get one of his dolls back and then come back to the place as Sally, you will see that the place turned into Arthur Hastings' hate club. It's so fucking hilarious. Also, you can actually find these dolls in various places, hinting that they are indeed doing something. The story doesn't need no additional praise for me. If you are stuck here by this point, you'll definitely agree that the story is amazing. But I want to specifically appreciate the cutscenes and voice acting in this game. Everyone in the game sounds and feels very British. Well, almost everyone.
Scotland forever!
And the cutscenes are animated so well, it still baffles me how well made they are. You feel compassionate about the characters, well, except for you, you can fuck right off. And feel the urge of, oh my god, what's going to happen next, all the time. And this feeling is what is driving my passion of making this video. There wasn't a time since Metal Gear Solid and Pathologic since I spent hours to search the wiki in order to find some new lore on this game. The side quests are surprisingly well done. Some of them are so good they're better than some of the main quests. There are some filler fetch quests here and there, but most of the side quests are solid side plots. There is a time you help a guy making meat from human corpses and then arrest him. There is one where you get seduced by grannies as Ollie, and there is the Simon Says Church, which is the best mission in the game by far. I definitely did not expect such high quality side quests. Good job, Compulsion. Also, the map is randomly generated all the time, which is kinda neat, but so are the side quests, which is very weird. I really wanted to get one as Ollie that is about Uncle Jack, but I never got lucky during my 3 playthroughs. I don't really know how I feel about this feature, to be honest. The soundtrack made by Make Believers is also brilliant and fits really well into this game. Uncle Jack being a real human also works really well, creating this uneasy feeling about him, and the style of the whole game is brilliant. This game did what Bethesda only dreamed of achieving, a retro futuristic game that is good. So this is kinda new for me. I've decided since this game and its story is very complex and is very fun to talk about, I asked people from our WeHappyFew what they think about the game, and first of all I wanna thank you so much. Everyone who typed their experiences have been really helpful. I know it doesn't really seem like that many people, but I expected a lot less, so thank you guys a lot. This lovely fellow, Skylin22, who told me about the music, also pointed out the thing about Dr. Faraday's house being in the wrong place. And it got me thinking, not only is it in the different part of the city every time, the homeboys behave differently every time. During Arthur's playthrough, they appear clinically insane, both of them. During Sally's, only one of them is stupid, and during Ollie's route they are both perfectly normal, and the house being at the wrong place is a cool detail, as Faraday tries to mess with the wormhole device. Now let's see here. Oh, here we go. ActiveEd1958 writes, my favorite main protagonist is Arthur, because of his sarcasm and cunningness. Oh, okay. Brave and selfless. What are you, of your joy? This man is evil incarnate! Now, Oyasme, I think I pronounced that wrong, sorry, writes us saying that he takes a Bobby body, dead or alive, and proceeds to pick it up and throw it on the bottom or top of the bunk bed and sleep with them. Sometimes the Bobbies don't despawn, so that means he has a police badge with him the whole time. Okay, I mean, I ain't going to judge, really. This wonderful person, George69 here, writes, that somber feeling of looting someone's house, hearing that eerie slowed down music just to open a closet door to find someone hanging there, dead. It's almost gut-wrenching. You almost feel guilty for looting an NPC's home. I can't agree more. Whenever I loot a house in the garden district, it always makes me feel like a total dickhead. You barge in just to see some corpses and drawings of the children that seem like mad ramblings. It's just depressing. Bunsen here writes, personally I found it to be a thrilling experience from start to finish. Yeah, there were some bugs, but people need to remember, this wasn't a game made by a huge studio. The only thing that I think screwed the game was the price increase, but other than that, it was definitely meant for more fame than it got. Yes, this is something I forgot to mention. The game got a lot of bad rap because after the full release, they almost tripled the price on the game. I didn't really mind it since I got the game in alpha, but I can see the reason behind hate here. The game wasn't made by a huge studio, just as he says, but it's priced as the same level as AAA games. But please be honest here with me, would you rather play this unforgettable masterpiece or another Far Cry 3 reskin for the same price?
But you can't just add a horse to Far Cry 3 and act like you've created a new game. I'm dumb, Ubisoft, but I'm not that dumb.
Bell here writes to us the following. I really like the world building of the game as well as the story. Sometimes when I am at an emotional low, I'll load up Sandbox and just walk around the village talking to people. The game does have a ton of bugs though. A lot of the time I'd pull myself under the map or NPCs would be flying around the map or sitting in the air. Easily the worst time I had with the game was when I played the survival mode and the game didn't generate the key item needed to finish the game. So I had to cheat in to beat it. Still, fantastic game. This is what I forgot to mention, there are actually 2 additional game modes sprinkled into the game. You have the Bobby beat-em-up, which is surprisingly a lot of fun. And then you have a survival mode, which is the same as story without the story. The game mode is not that fun, and it tends to bug out pretty often. The same thing that happened to Belle happened to me, so only play it if you really want to. But during this game mode, cities feel more alive. Wellies have a lot of cool idle animations now, they talk to each other more often, and cities just look more cool. If you're wondering why these features are absent from the main game, this beautiful fella explained it to me, because I was really wondering the same thing. No joke, this guy is amazing, he helped me a lot during the creation of the video and is just a really sweet dude. And he runs the wiki, so this guy is a saint, ladies and gentlemen, a saint. Fat Greg here says that playing it in June 2022, the game still has some immersion-breaking bugs in Act 1 and 2, with the blue something went wrong screen on my PS4 coming up too many times, with memory allocation being only one problem and long periods where saving was unavailable. There's also a habit for dropped items to fall through the floor and an inventory system that keeps jumping around with selected items. Now, I played the game on PC because I am a real gamer, but it appears PS4 is suffering from even more bugs than PC version. Who could have seen that one coming? Alex over here gives us a massive and a really cool answer, but I really want to read this one part. I was originally a closed beta player, or alpha, I can't remember, and I had such a poor experience with it at first. It was a barren little survival game, null and devoid. It completely let me down and it didn't come back until a few years ago. The story changed everything. It's a vibrant, vast world filled with secrets, deliberate inconsistencies, and unreliable narration. Now, I will leave the link to the original post in the description. I genuinely recommend you to go and read the full answers if you play the game already. The community for this game is amazing and very cozy, so if you are a fan, subscribe now! You shall know the truth, and it will make you mad. Aldous Huxley. This was the introductory line of Ollie's route. And standing before this massive broadcast tower, there are a lot of questions flying around in your head. But first, let's summarize what we know. During the German occupation and a threat of attacking the city of Wellington Wells, it was decided that instead of fighting the Germans, it would be a good idea to pull the French card on them. General Byng and some German officer made the decision of surrendering all children of Wellington Wells below the age of 13 into the hands of Germans, as a way to bribe and for them not to destroy an entire country in bombings. In order to do that, they would need a way to convince the people that they have absolutely no way of winning this fight. That's when Ollie Starkie, a sergeant and the secretary of General Byng, teamed up with him and his daughter Victoria Byng to create an illusion of a death sentence. From the papier-mâché, they created a line of tanks which people from Wellington Wells had no way of defeating back then. So they were forced with the decision to hand over the kids. The giant list of kids were made by the Germans, and those who resisted were hanged or shot to scare the others. The kids were shipped away by a train along with Percy Hastings, the brother of Arthur Hastings. The war drained everything from the city. There were no cows, no meat, no cats, and no birds. And now, even the kids were far gone. People were slowly losing their mind, and the executive committee needed a way to make people happy. The first step was to create an illusion of happiness, the happy face. A mask that will force a smile on your face no matter what you're going through, and it didn't really work that well. People were still sad on the inside, and the memories were still haunting them no matter how hard they were smiling. Not so long after, Sally Boyle, a brilliant chemist, creates a solution to the problem, a pill that makes the pain go away, the happy pill that makes the dread of the past dissolve into the everlasting happiness of today. Of course, the demand is high. It is in fact so high that the executive committee forces the use of the pill to be mandatory, as it is far easier to control people who are happy all the time and don't want to game end themselves immediately. During the time, Uncle Jack once again becomes a source of propaganda, but this time cleverly disguised. He is heard from everywhere, and from everywhere he is loved. He spreads only good thoughts, like it's okay to overdose on joy, and reminding people that the war was won by them. Drawback of all of this being a low quality of work power and absence of any trade deals. But even what little resources there are that are needed to make the joy pills are dwindling, and this will not go on for that long. So the idea of the permanent solution is at hand. Executive committee is in love with the concept of joy, but it is simply not enough in the long term. Dr. Verloc tries to work on it, but the progress appears slower than expected. During his creation, he messes with the strawberry joy formula, which in fact makes his joy unusable. He then hastily pulls the plug and dumps it all into the river, poisoning it and creating histoplasm that results in a plague outbreak. It is unclear on why the Germans wanted the kids specifically, but the reason is not important. It is the fact that matters. Who cares why and for what reason? It matters very little now. No more running from the past, the time has come. Barging in through the front door, it appears scoring an audition is truly impossible, as the workers here send you on an infinite loop in order to never let you enter the building. which is expectable, but we're not asking here to begin with. And after pressing the button, we're on our way to meet the elusive executive committee. During the game, you hear a lot about them, but never witness any of them. Keep in mind, they are the masterminds behind all of this insanity. This is the only sort of government they have around. Ollie's gut clenches as he steps out of the elevator and sees this disturbing sight. The place is in ruins. Flies are swarming the rotting food. The light is flickering everywhere. There is dirt and mud all over the place. Going inside the office, you see this. This is the executive committee. There was no logic here, no thought or giant big mastermind behind all of this. Not even a "the government is corrupt and bad" subtle plot hidden. It all makes sense now. They don't even have different textures from other wellies, because they are all the same in the end. Just as, if not more, stolen from happiness as other people in town. Ollie tries to talk some sense into them, but it's all futile. They are not even realizing what he's saying, although they are fully aware that the city is starving. They just chose to neglect it, as doing anything requires taking responsibility, and that makes you sad. This is the jackals, the powerhouse that everyone is afraid of. This is something that throws chills down your spine. Realizing that there is no hope left, Ollie decides that there is only one person who can help him now. And luckily, he's not too far from him. The only person in the whole world that the people of Wellington Wells might listen to.
And remember, by the way, don't hesitate to go see your doctor if you need any medical attention. They'll fix up that cat right away. And they always check your joy level and make sure that it's where it should be. Good.
Uncle Jack. They take the elevator up and find the studio in ruins. Something happened here. Inside the studio, there is no one to be found, not Uncle Jack, not anyone. Deeper inside, we find a machine playing the same Uncle Jack tapes over and over again. In the end of the day, who cares? People won't even remember that this was already broadcasted after the amount of joy they take. But where is Uncle Jack? Even deeper inside, we get our hands on Uncle Jack's last tape, and I just want you to listen to it fully.
I'm sure I had it right here. You know, there are times that you can actually take a little too much joy and, well, then you can't remember where anything is, can you? Ah, yes. Here it is. Mrs. Florence Gilbert of Brougham Hayes is holding an exhibition of her hand-knit dolls. Well, she likes to make dolls from all over the world, all knitted in wool.
It's his last show.
How'd you ken that?
The camera's smashed. They couldn't have shot another.
Do you know who'd have liked that? Margaret.
Why is he talking about you?
Who's Margaret?
Because I love dolls.
What am I talking about? Who cares about the past? Well, listen, do drop by to see these fabulous dolls at Mrs. Florence Gilbert's.
Poor thing.
Poor thing?
She loved dolls, you know. She had dozens of them. They're from all over. I can assure you that there's absolutely no truth to the silly rumour that the food is running out.
How does he know about your dolls?
However, it is true that there's a brand new flavour of joy. Jesus. You'd think a 12-year daughter would be over dolls.
His daughter?
Yes, Ollie.
But she'd make these darling little costumes. I knew it was wrong. I mean... She was even excited about going to Germany. It was me. I couldn't imagine living without her, so... So I hid her. Someone tipped them off. And she ran.
No, that's not right. It was Jack what turned you in and I what tried to save you.
No, Ollie. You turned me in.
I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time.
But you were my daughter.
Jack Worthing. Margaret
I mean it.
Worthing. You're Ollie Starkie.
Oh, I couldn't have. I could never have betrayed you. You're my
neighbour. I was your neighbour.
How could I? How could I do a thing like that to a little girl? Dear God, I'm sorry, Margaret. I never meant to hurt you.
Well,
It's a bit late for an apology.
What can I do? Tell me.
do you hear me? We've come to the end of our time. The food's run out. We're all going to starve to death. You have to stop taking your joy. Take it from Jack Worthy. That's me.
People have to know
But Jack's your father?
Stop.
that Jack's gone, that the food's run out,
All have to stop.
that they have to stop taking the joy.
Stop it.
You have to broadcast the tape.
Right, I could do that.
But you won't, will you?
God.
Holy shit, maybe you are not so bad after all. So it was all a coping mechanism. A way to suppress the guilt and the pain. Perhaps even not willingly. The cheerful Scottish guy did some terrible, horrible things, but it was no time to dwell on it. With Jack nowhere to be found, there is only one thing that needs to be done. Ollie decides to broadcast the tape, and of course this does not go unnoticed. Police tries to sabotage the transmission multiple times, but Ollie, fighting them off, manages to keep the broadcast going, in order for people to see the truth, no matter if they wish for it or not. And after the last bang of a metal pipe hitting the Bobby's helmet, it is over. Ollie heads on top of the roof, where he constructs his escape vehicle. And we have our last conversation with Margaret.
What do we do now?
We say goodbye.
To who?
I'm not really your daughter.
I know that.
And I'm not really here.
But
I'm a lie too.
we've been together so many years.
You don't think having an invisible friend is a wee bit babyish for a man who's been to war?
We can hide in the train station till it all blows over.
Now that you've put that on the telly, I think it's time you put away childish things.
You're right. You're always right. Goodbye, Margaret.
And with that, there is nothing more left for Ollie in Wellington Wells. The cold winds of Wellington Wells pick the balloon up, and with that, we'll say goodbye to the city. Well, not before we yell about vaccines and take a huge piece on the city itself, and with that, Ollie heads to Scotland.
Scotland!
Story-wise, the game is magnificent. Not only does it feature a deep and thought-out plot, it delivers every single storyline with the same top-notch quality. The people we play as are terrible human beings, all of them did horrible things in their past. Arthur is an egoistical, self-entitled shithead, but to be honest, he is the most innocent of the three. Sally is the person who ruined the whole city by making the joy pill a thing, and Ollie took a part in a massive, life-ruining lie and is responsible for the death of a child, if not multiple. All three characters are anti-heroes driven by their own goals, sometimes selfish, sometimes not. The thing about people is that we will always make mistakes. It is impossible to find a man who have not done something more or less horrible. But it is from facing these mistakes we grow as a person. By realizing that what you did was wrong, you not only grow individually, but you also gain knowledge that you can pass on to a future generation. It is in our core to feel guilt and pain, because from them we learn and become better. And I said it before and I will say it again. No matter how hard you run from your past mistakes, they will always catch up and bite again. You can hide them, you can mask them, you can suppress them. Their impact is inevitable. Happy is the country with no past, yet the country with no past has no knowledge of the future, as there is no experience to learn from. The country with no past and with no sadness is the country that will tear itself apart to shreds. Can Sally be forgiven? In some way, she only did the things she needed in order to survive and finally become happy. Her story is tragic as it is touching, and I think that considering her love for her daughter, we need to give her a chance to make it right again. Can Ollie be forgiven? Fuck no, the guy's evil. Well, not really. I think it is because he's a huge coward. Same goes for General Bing. Both of them lack trust in people of Wellington Wells, and Ollie would rather have someone else do the dirty work while he snatches all the goods. And when the pain becomes too much, he will gladly forget everything, performing hardcore mental gymnastics to make himself seem like a good guy. But his desire to make people see the truth is to be admirable. It doesn't redeem him fully, but does show that somewhere deep within the sick belly, there is a noble spirit that wants to make things right. Can Arthur be forgiven?
No.
Well, obviously yes. He was 13 when he did the thing he did. Who didn't do some fucked up shit when he was 13? Just remember your Call of Duty lobbies on Xbox Live, we've all been there. Does he really think that Percy is alive after all these years? Probably not, it's obvious the guy is dead, but it's his decision to at least try to find him. If he succeeds, that's amazing, and if not, at least he will be at peace with himself. And after all this, we are presented with a choice. Same as the beginning of the game. Either remember who you truly are and bear the guilt of everything you've done, or return to the simple life of an oblivion. There is no choice here really, but I like that they have the opportunity to make a choice.
Now everything's better under the sun.
The truth is not for everyone, sir.
I think having an invisible friend is a wee bit babyish for a man who's been to war.
Oh, they won't anymore, will they? Make as much noise as you like.
There you are. We've been waiting for you.
You're always the best of the lot. I've missed you so. Isn't she adorable?
Oh, I couldn't have. I could never have betrayed you. You're my
neighbour. Who is your neighbour?
I'm not your consolation prize.
This is a day we may all come to regret, Mr. Hastings. But I am not going to put one more child on that train than my duty obligates me to do.
Really? Because we had this exact conversation.
I made them sing, Ollie.
Are you really a constable?
I patrol the boundaries. Come on, sir. Once you're out there, you'll know what to do.
After some time passes, we find Arthur on his road to nowhere, when a playing ball lands in front of him, and a ginger kid comes to pick it up. Arthur greets him with a typical "lovely day for it," to which the kid replies,
You joking? It's been shitty all day. Did you not notice the drops of water falling out of the sky? Gonna be shitty tonight too.
The thought of being free to witness a shitty day makes a sincere smile appear on Arthur's face. Of course, the true beauty can only be perceived on a contrast, and to be truly happy and experience lovely days, you need to have shitty days. What a special game this is. Good night to you, my fellow viewers. If you're here listening to me, I want you to thank you so much. I doubt anyone besides me will hear me talking here, but if by some miracle you are here with me, thank you. I really mean it. This video was a bit of a passion project to me, and I truly find this game special and one-of-a-kind experience. Even if you know full story behind the game now, I really encourage you to go ahead and buy the game to play it for yourself. I'm really not the best narrator out there, so I missed a lot of things during my story time. Some are left on purpose and some are forgotten, but nevertheless, buy the game and have a blast playing it, my friend. And If you have already played the game, or think that I missed something important, or got something wrong, please, I welcome it to the comment section. I am always open to discussion. Now, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again next time, when we will discuss yet another game. I will see you soon.
Come to the end of our time.